Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. The show is about to begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. Our friend Coop with us, aka Coop A. Fiasco. What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show on March 14th, 2023. It's Tuesday, my dudes, I think.
It's Tuesday, my dudes.
I believe whatever you say when you say it.
I'm losing track of the days, guys. It's March, and I'm faltering on my New Year's resolution. But I'm your host, Simon Greenville, joined as always by my fabulous goldfish-eating co-hosts, John Luke Garofalo and Andrew Cooper. What's up, boys?
What up?
What up? The Goldfish, the breakfast of champions.
Breakfast of champions. What can I say? Coop,
I
open up.
got some mini glazed donuts over here today.
Ooh, that's nice.
I just have them as a shield in case JL chucks goldfish my direction.
Ready, Simon? Here we go.
Yeah.
Block. Come on, man. It's supposed to eat out. Like that.
Just like that.
Like that.
How many goldfish are on the ground now over there?
From today or in
Six.
general?
Just in general.
Yeah, I've added 6 new ones to the ground today, but there's they just put them in the fountain. The fountain, you know?
The fountain.
The combination between a pile and a mountain that I didn't separate before it came out of my mouth. Well, guys, NFL free agency started yesterday, and holy cow, did the floodgates open. It's unbelievable how many deals get done in those first couple hours, and we've got a lot to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get to it in what we call BYOB. Bring your own breakfast. Before we do that, though, we got someone in the chat here with us. Tommy showing up in the BSN chat with a rhyme for us bright and early. This is the free agent frenzy has paid off so far. Raiders got a new model to replace their old car. But now they need a backup, one that will fit them cause the Broncos are in wild and signed Jarrett Stidham. Now, Jimmy G is a stud. He plays pretty well, too. He can be their number 1, but we need a number 2. So where do we look? What do we do? In a prison buzz by the river sits Gardner Minshew with his cutoff jeans and his boisterous swagger and a bristly mustache. Boy's got style like Jagger. A lot else went down. We can talk about that later, but today is a pretty good day to be a Las Vegas Raider.
Ooh, that was
the Minshew rhyme in the middle was hot, Tommy. I started losing steam, then I got to Minshew, built it back up, and then ended on a nice Raider note.
I love Minshew, man. Where do you guys think Minshew is going to end up?
Heaven.
Angel. Yeah, but before that, hopefully for quite some time before that. You go to Valhalla first and then heaven?
Yeah.
What about for a job?
Oh.
Where do you think he's going to be working this year?
Back with the Eagles.
Eagles, what do you think, Jails Webb?
Yeah, I think Eagles make the most sense for sure.
Yeah. I've got one spot that I think – so a team that we're potentially going to talk about later today, a little foreshadowing there. Arizona Cardinals. I think that that could be a spot for him. And there's another quarterback, but I know that Jonathan Gannon came over from the Eagles. Could be familiar with the Minshew, and Kyler Murray is he had surgery on a knee injury and might not be back in time to start the season. So I feel like that'd be a good spot where he could play a couple games. He's guaranteed to play a couple games, so not too bad, right?
No, not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Do you think he has a shot at a full-time starter job? Do you think that's what he's angling for? Is that why he didn't sign right away? Is he looking for that chance at being a starter?
Simon, I think that's exactly what's going on, buddy. I think that there's a handful of guys that are vying for the remaining potential starter jobs that are out there because not every team is going to draft a quarterback. And if you draft a quarterback like Hendon Hooker, again, he might not be ready to go to start the season because he hurt his knee in November. So there are a few spots out there. And you never know, Rodgers could decide that he wants to stay with the Packers. And then all of a sudden there's a primo spot left, right? So, I think a lot of those guys are waiting on that announcement for the next one.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, on that note, since we're in BYOB, I want to kick us off with something related to the Packers and the Jets. It was noted yesterday that neither the Packers nor the Jets have made any free agent moves. And that's because the Packers still have Aaron Rodgers, $60 million contract on their books. The Jets think they're taking it on. So what really can they do outside of that? They're just stuck kind of there waiting. And the Jets, the only quarterback on their roster right now, Zach Wilson. That is the only rostered quarterback. So they're kind of sitting there waiting on Rodgers they're going to have to figure out a backup plan if Rodgers doesn't end up going there. Maybe they go back to Flacco, but kind of sticking them in limbo. It's not a great look for Rodgers while these teams probably want to be making other moves.
Flacco's not under contract?
Flacco is not under contract.
Oh, no.
Mike White got traded yesterday.
Mike White signing with the Dolphins, which to me, that's a sign that they're pretty confident in Tua, right? Like Mike White is a guy that can play, but he's not a guy that's going to offer legitimate competition to the job. And I think he knows that. And at 2 years, $12 million, I think it's pretty clear that he's there to be a serviceable backup. So good news for Tua.
They got their second and third string quarterback by signing that. Second string Mike White, third string Mike White with 5 broken ribs.
Exactly. Who might be better? Who might it's like his activation trap card where he's just like, you get that adrenaline going.
Backup is Mike White with 5 broken ribs. Third string is healthy Mike White.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's Mike, you're in, and someone takes a hammer.
At halftime, no,
time.
please, I'll play. At halftime, they just roughing him up, dude.
Tyreek Hill goes, "You're gonna throw me a freaking touchdown!" Boom. Get some.
It's So hopefully he makes that call soon, so the rest of the stuff can happen. And there's a lot of that goes on with a lot of positions. Like you look around, no wide receivers signed yesterday, really, and that's because somebody needs to set that market. Yeah, we don't even know if it's going to be Juju or Jacoby Myers or Alan Lazard, but somebody needs to go first, and then the rest of the people can sit there and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like if you look at the two probably biggest deals, Javon Hargrave, well, they weren't quarterbacks. Javon Hargraves goes to the 49ers for 4 years, $84 million. Very shortly after that, Deron Payne signs his deal, 4 years, $90 million. They're kind of just waiting to see what the deal is, get it all signed up. So once one wide receiver signs, we're going to see a bunch in short order.
Yeah. One set the market, set the pace, and I'm very curious what that is this year because I was shocked last year whenever Christian Kirk signed for $20 million. I mean, turned out being a good move for the Jaguars, I feel like, but I want to see where the market gets set this year. Is it going to be equivalent to Christian Kirk? Are you expecting that kind of range?
I think it's got to be, man. It's got to be because, I mean, like the Amazon money hit this year. We're seeing tight ends get paid a little more this year than they were last year. But, the only wide receiver we've seen signed was Robert Woods, and that was kind of before free agency. So, in my opinion, it doesn't really count, right? It's like he signed that deal without a whole lot of competition and he's not even the top of the market, so it'll be interesting. What are you thinking? What kind of range are you thinking?
That makes sense. Probably the 20 to 25 range for like the Juju Lazard kind of players.
I think it's got to be. Because you already have guys at the very top that are making like 30 million, right? So somebody's going to splash on, somebody's going to get desperate and go 2025.
And we found out yesterday that like even not the top tier, Odell Beckham Jr., it's reported that he is looking for $20 million to sign with a team. I don't know if he's going to get it, but Daniel Jones said he was looking for a lot of money. He got a lot of money. Odell Beckham Jr. says he's looking for a lot of money, and he's still got that name. Some team might say, hey, maybe he's still OBJ and give it that to him, but
probably not.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
For anybody out there, figured now is a good time to mention anybody out there that didn't see all the free agent news yesterday is wondering what's been going on. If you pop on Google, the old Goog machine, and type, hey, Goog machine, bring me to fantasyalarm.com to the free agent tracker. That's up now. I've been tracking all the free agents, putting all the old teams in, new teams in, position, and then a little note, how much they're getting paid, what kind of player they are. So if you want to get caught up to speed real quick, fantasyalarm.com, free agent tracker, all the notes from all the signings yesterday, which there were a lot. Yes, my fingers do hurt.
Approximately 1 million signings. Before we move on from Aaron Rodgers, It does look like he's going to sign with the Jets. Ross Tucker came out yesterday and said that Rodgers is involved in trying to recruit one or more free agents to the Jets while still being under contract with the Green Bay Packers. So he is actively reaching out to other free agents, trying to recruit them to the Jets, as being reported by Ross Tucker. So I'd expect that signing. I just wish it would happen already so we could stop F5ing.
Yeah, get it done. Let's make it happen so we can move on with our goddamn lives, dude. I feel like every year they like pick one story and they're like, we need to drag this out over.
And it's always Aaron Rodgers.
Almost always Aaron Rodgers, or it's like like before the Super Bowl, like the Tom Brady Deflategate stuff. They were like, all right, we got some downtime here. Let's just make this like everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's smart for the league. It's like, Roger Goodell is basically Vince McMahon with this stuff. He's like, no. We need this for this dead period. And then now that free agency's here, he's like, all right, go ahead. They'll come up with something for the dead period before the draft too. I'm sure they will.
Without a doubt. There'll be some other big storyline.
And I'll love it.
In other spicy news here, Darnold got signed by the 49ers. 1-year deal.
What is that?
Sam Darnett.
What is that? Why do they do that?
Here's my theory.
All those QBs, they lost Garoppolo. They need a little Darnold.
And they needed someone traditionally handsome with a chiseled jawline. They were like, well, we can't get Jimmy GQ. Like, that jawline's too chiseled. He left.
So let's
us,
get the fourth grade equivalent.
Let's get the Sam's Club.
Let's get the playground bully looking guy.
Exactly.
So handsome.
They were trying to match Jimmy GQ, but like the pieces are there. It just didn't quite work out. They got the rigid jawline, and that's about it. And then the quarterback attached isn't nearly as good.
Sam Darnold's just a failed Jimmy Garoppolo experiment. It's like,
kill me. Shanahan. We have Jimmy G at home. And then it's like Jimmy G at home. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a backup situation.
I
They're
wonder
bringing him in for depth, I feel like. And
yeah.
how much worse, like, he has shown times on the field where he's looked great. I feel like we have seen Sam Darnold in small spurts look fantastic. He's also been in god awful situations over and over and over again. Maybe this will be good for him, going to a Shanahan-led offense, working with other young quarterbacks, and maybe he can get his career back on track. But as of right now, this looks like solely depth.
Coop was like, why are they doing this? And then I thought back to the original, or to their playoff loss this season. That's why they're doing this, Coop.
Yes, that makes a lot
of sense. They ran out of QBs.
They're just terrified of running out. They're shook. I mean,
they didn't make it very far in the playoffs because they ran out of QBs. So now I anticipate at least 3 more signings from the 49ers.
Did you see the Chargers submitted, like, related to running out of quarterbacks? Jonathan Jones reported yesterday the Chargers submitted a bylaw proposal where oh wait, this is the wrong one. That is not the one I was looking at.
I saw a couple.
There was a bylaw proposal basically where you could have an emergency third quarterback on your reserves, where if 2 quarterbacks got injured during the game and could not continue, you had a third one that didn't have to be active that you could pull up to play in that game. So they had Sam Darnold. There's number 3. And they can put someone else on the reserves down there.
I like that rule, and I think that it would. I wouldn't mind if that was extended to kicker as well. Kicker, punter, long snapper. Like, so you've got basically the way it works. You have 53 men on the roster. 48 can be active on game day, and then you have 5 inactive players. I think in this case they're suggesting that you can have an additional player that's not within those 5. But I would rather have it be like, if you have a guy within those 5 that you can activate for positions like that, then you're allowed to activate them. I think I would be absolutely cool with that. I feel like
could have saved the 49ers some headaches during their.
Yeah, we've seen it with kickers too, where it's like, I don't want to watch a team send out like their punter to try and kick, or to just not be able to kick extra points. Like, it ruins the product on the field. Like, if it makes for a better product, then I say we do it.
Oh, I do. I love that. I'm like, oh yeah, wide receiver's gonna try and kick it. Let's see what happens.
We always think we love that, and same with baseball. Like, we always think it's like, oh, position players coming into pitch. All right, and then you actually see it, and you're like, oh, this just sucks. This just looks. It's like game.
The Kendall Hinton game was the best game of my life.
That game was terrible, dude.
I loved watching that game. It's just chaos, and I love watching teams have to like flounder in a situation where they're not used to, because it's just not common. It's not common we see this in.
What about,
we watch so much NFL, and so the one time where it just gets wacky, I love it.
I think it was our freshman year, JL, when Maryland came to Clemson. Might have been soft. It was when they were still ACC. I think it was freshman year.
Freshman year, because my buddy Big Mike played on the team, and we were all hyped.
Okay, so you remember like their first, second, third, and fourth string starting quarterbacks had been injured, or like the first three, and then the fourth one got injured like in that game. And so they put in a linebacker at quarterback, if I remember correctly. It was like a linebacker on their team who had played quarterback in like middle school. And they were like, I guess you're our quarterback now.
I guess you're the QB. I love that.
That's got to be fun, though. Know what I mean? Like, if you're the linebacker who gets put in at quarterback, you're not expected to win. You're just expected to survive. Go out there.
The game is a throwaway game at that point. You just got to play.
If you score one touchdown, holy shit, you did it. Know what I mean? Like, there's nothing but upside for the linebacker that goes in at QB.
In theory, we like it, but I think we're forgetting.
Stop telling me what I like. I know what I like. Stop telling me what I like.
Kendall Hinton.
In theory, we don't like it.
Did Kendall Hinton complete one pass?
That doesn't change my opinion. That doesn't change my opinion. Stop trying to change my opinion.
So no one declared this good football.
I guess that's true.
I just like it.
I think Taysom. The other quarterback in that game was Taysom Hill too. Like I think there might have been 5.
Oh my god!
I think there might have been 5 passes.
I'm 100% going to watch that game later.
I think there might have been 5 passes thrown in that game.
Some people go back to watch games like the Rams Chiefs 100-point game. JL goes back and watches the Kendall Hinton Taysom Hill face off.
Nightmare.
Yes,
that game was a nightmare.
And then Keith goes back and watched the Colts Broncos
Thursday night 0 touchdown game.
No score.
Hot
football.
Yeah. Wow, that's just barely football.
Now give me some football.
Give me the emergency quarterback. He did complete 1 pass actually. I just pulled the stats. He attempted 9.
You owe him an apology.
I'm sorry, Kentle. You're a star. The funny part. I saw our Kennel. So he attempted 9 passes, completed 1 for 13 yards. And he actually, I guess technically, he completed 2 passes to the other team. He threw 2 interceptions. And then Taysom Hill only completed 9 passes, and he threw an interception. So here were the passing stats for these 2 teams. Kendall Hinton completed 1 pass for 13 yards. Taysom Hill completed 9 for 78 yards. There wasn't even 100 total passing yards in that game.
Man.
What the hell?
Everyone tuned into that game. We talked about that all week, and we were all like, "Oh yeah, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?"
And that happened. The most likely outcome.
That's exactly what we expected.
And they slowly ran the clock out with Latavius Murray.
Good God.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So I might as well jump in with the rule change that I started reading on accident. The Chargers submitted a bylaw proposal. Wildcard teams would be seated higher than division champs in the playoffs if the wildcard team has 4 or more wins than a division champ who is below 500. So basically saying division champ gets you in the playoffs, but doesn't guarantee you one of those top 4 seeds. A wildcard team could steal one of those top 4 seeds.
They're going to call that the Chargers submitted that?
The Chargers submitted that. So it's if a wildcard team has 4 or more wins than a division champ who is below 500.
I believe the Chargers named that rule the "we're in the same division as Patrick Mahomes" rule.
I think so too. I think that is the Kansas City Chiefs rule is what's going on there.
How do you guys feel about that? I mean, it feels a little complainy, but I also complain about it each time it happens, right?
It feels like the people who complain about scoring the most points but losing in fantasy football.
Yeah.
It feels like the same premise where it's like
most points for,
I'm
most
sorry
points
for you.
Against.
I'm very sorry this happened to you.
Sorry that happened.
But this is the game.
Too long, didn't read. Good for you, or sorry that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We all make fun of the people who do that, and then
the moment we're in the
4
situation.
weeks into next season, I'll be 0-4 with the most points for, and I'll be sitting here going like, and I've got the best team in the league, and I haven't won a freaking game.
I don't think it's enough. The 4 game difference. I think if you were to make it something like a ridiculous, like a little more
15.
Yeah, I think that's not 50. 15 would be wild. But I think because if you think about it, the difference between we're saying that a division winner could hypothetically go like 8 and 9. We've seen 7 and 9 teams in the past. So say a team goes 8 and 9, they win their division in the NFC South. Obviously, we're talking about, and then the Chargers, if all they would have to do is go 12 and 5, and then they get the spot. It's like 12 wins versus 8 wins doesn't seem like enough. Feels like it would have to be more, I feel.
And it weakens the division aspect to it.
Yeah.
which is I know a big debate, and people are on either side and the other about it. But it feels like that would weaken the division competition, which would impact the NFL and the product they put on
Yep,
I don't think this passes.
Yeah, it takes. Yeah, you're right. It takes away from the importance of the division games. Yeah, I don't think it
Is
passes.
this
The other one I like.
proposals
This one,
this? Are bylaw proposals like this? What percentage of the vote is required? Like, is this something that requires unanimous approval from owners? Is it a simple majority? Do we know that?
I don't know, but I'll look it up right now. If you guys stall.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Stall. Oh, did you want me to do it like
Stall.
smoothly
In a convincing fashion?
Okay.
Should I switch to other news?
In other news, switching to other news.
Other newsception. Joey in the chat said they are seeing the NFL playoffs like college basketball conference tournament, which reminds me, join our Discord and join our Match Madness tournament. Match Madness. Join our Match Madness bracket.
Our Match Madness bracket. I love this time of year. I get so excited just going through and like learning about these different schools like Montana State. Why am I going and watching Montana State college basketball film? Because I'm going to win this freaking thing.
Because I'm going to win the whole dang thing.
This is the year. Right. I'm going to get a perfect bracket.
Open that wallet, Daddy Buffett.
I never win. Yeah, I never win because I always put the PC Friars in like the Elite Eight, and they always suck. All right, so I did find that rule. So you need 2/3. So you need 24 owners.
Yeah. I don't know. So we can go ahead and probably count the South divisions out of voting for this because they're the most likely to have a conference champion that is below 500 this year. So that's probably 8 teams that are not voting for this. And then what's that math? That's already 24. Everybody else has to be unanimous.
That would do it right there.
That would do it.
And I can't imagine the top echelon teams, the top tier teams being super excited about this because that means they're going to have tougher competition in the playoffs.
Oh, I think the top tier teams might be cool with this. Like the Chiefs, this would benefit because let's say them and the Chargers are in a neck and neck race for first place in the division, right? Any team that's going to have 12, 13, 14 wins, I feel like this is a plus for. I get what you're saying though. Like it does change the level of competition, but it also makes it more likely that you're going to not land in one of those wild card spots if there's another great team in division.
You also got to put yourself in the shoes of these owners. A lot of these owners probably thinking we're going to be good eventually, and I don't want to get screwed out of a home game if my team's really good. Like the owners, they want that home game, right? They're trying to sell soda pop, So maybe you could. Maybe they can't get it past. I don't know. I think that
this is why I don't think they will. It's because there's just too many different sides of it that like the moment you're on one other side of it, somebody else goes to the other side. It's like kind of all balanced out where as soon as one person wants it, there's going to be another team that probably doesn't want it.
Yeah. It's just how do you predict that you're going to be the team that is the division winner that sucks? You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of these teams, these owners' minds, they're going to figure it out and they're going to be awesome. So they vote on
just
whatever
a slump.
Yeah, exactly. Just a 100-year slump over in the Arizona Cardinals. No big deal.
They'll figure it out. Sure.
They will. In other news, Austin Eckler is requesting a permission to speak with other teams about a potential trade after preliminary talks with the team aimed at contract extension did not progress, according to Adam Schefter.
Yeah, I don't know, man. At his age, being asked to catch 100 balls, I'd want a little more security in my contract than what he has, too. So I don't necessarily blame Austin Eckler. Also, I like Austin Eckler, so I generally want to take his side on things. He comes out.
He could say whatever.
Exactly. Like he's the exact kind of guy who comes out, engages with the fans. He does all these fantasy football shows. He does live streams. He tells us if he's hurt and if he's going to play or not, which is awesome. Right. So like Austin Eckler, big fan. Pay that man his money.
I want him to get that deal, but I'm not sure it happens with the Chargers because you mentioned it, Coop. He's 27, almost 28 years old. He'll be 28 around the time the NFL season starts. And he's been given 300 touches for the past couple of years. Like this is a 28-year-old back touching the ball 300 times multiple years in a row. It makes sense to the Chargers. Like just like it makes sense Eckler wants more security, it makes sense that the Chargers don't want to sign a running back to a long-term, high-value deal. We've seen that not work out. The Cowboys are still sitting there with Zeke's massive contract. Not that Eckler and Zeke are the same player. I imagine Eckler can probably hold up a little bit longer, but 300 touches will get to anybody after a couple of years, especially when you've got 5-6 years in the league already.
Yeah.
In my write-up, I wrote for each team for the Chargers, I wrote that I'm pretty concerned for Eckler, not necessarily selling, because I think you can start him in every dynasty league, even if he's an RB2, but they lost Joe Lombardi. Joe Lombardi was a guy that he was with the Saints when they threw it to Alvin Kamara a ton. When he was with the Lions, he threw the ball to the running back 156 times in that season in 2014. And now he goes to the Broncos. This new coach might not throw to Eckler as much, and they might bring in another back to supplement on the early down work. So I am a little worried for Eckler for fantasy football. I would love for him to just get traded to the Broncos and just.
I was just about to say Eckler to the Broncos, and then we just roll it back.
And just all those Javante managers,
dude,
just so angry.
Yes,
they might quit.
I love Javante Williams. I have him in multiple dynasty leagues,
me too.
But just for the salt on Twitter, it would.
I just see like all of their stomachs just twisting the moment that news drops.
I guess I am team chaos as well, so I would sacrifice my Javante shares.
Except when it's a game and we run out of quarterbacks. It's the one time Coop is not Agent Chaos. He's Agent Chalk.
The thing is, that's not like fun chaos. That's like everyone's. That's like the DMV.
DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Hey,
that's right.
I was gonna say, shout out the state of Georgia for fixing their DMVs. They are so pleasant.
Are they?
It's an automated system, and you walk up and just type in your name, and then 3 minutes later they call you up to the desk, and then you're out of there.
Nice.
Every other DMV I've ever been to has been like a hellhole. Just Texas makes it a maze. You have to wander from building to building, and if you don't have a driver's license yet in Texas, and your one from your old state is expired, you have to Uber all around town because the DMV apparently isn't where you go to get your driver's license.
Weird.
Eckler
going into this is his last year on his contract, so he does have one more year. His base salary It's got a 1.5 million signing bonus, 7.75 cap hit, and a 1.5 dead cap this year. And then next year he's an unrestricted free agent. So we'll see if the deal gets done.
I'm not convinced the long-term deal with the Chargers will get done. So either he plays on this and then goes into it as an unrestricted free agent, or they do get a trade done. But this is not a team incentivized to get a trade done for Austin Eckler. They are competitive now, and Austin Eckler helps them win.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced we'll see anything come of that.
So much news.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. From yesterday, looking at some of the free agency stuff, felt like there were some pretty clear winners and losers so far. It's hard to feel like the Eagles were not losers yesterday. At the end of the day, we knew they were going to lose some guys, but they immediately lost multiple high-end players. They lost TJ Edwards, their starting middle linebacker, who was played the third most snaps of anybody on that defense. He goes to Chicago. They lost Javon Hargrave, which was their big interior pass rusher. He was the one that basically knocked out Purdy. And I mean, I know we don't cheer for injury, but he basically won that game, right? He goes to San Francisco, so they're not letting that happen again. They decided to. They were like, you know what? We'll get him on our team, and then that can't happen again. So
you think he bucks at Purdy in the locker room whenever he gets over? And he's like, no, I'm just messing. We're on the same team now.
Just he walks by him, he's like, 4 years, $84 million. So that's one of the biggest non-quarterback deals that was announced yesterday. And then they quietly also lost their starting tackle, Andre Dillard, who signed late yesterday with Tennessee. Right? I mean, across the board, they lost their safety, Marcus Epps, to the Raiders. There was some silver lining for Eagles fans, so it's not all sad. They did get Jason Kelsey, said he's not going to retire, and also Brandon Graham, a longtime veteran. He's 34 years old, said, I'll just come back, play defensive end, 1 year, $6 million deal. Just a kind of a veteran, loyal, wants to be there type deal. But, I mean, they lost Hargrave, Dillard, Edwards, Epps, and this isn't over yet. So the Eagles, pretty rough, man. Pretty rough.
They got some work to do reloading that defense.
Yeah. What were some winners and losers that you
I think
guys might have seen
Bears. The Bears are winners. The Bears just in general. You already mentioned one great defensive signing that they had. They also signed former Bills linebacker Tremaine Edmonds to a 4-year, $72 million deal with $50 million guaranteed. And Poles just seems to be doing a great job. They got a freaking haul with DJ Moore for that first overall pick. Add some studs on the defense. And like you go back to earlier in the season, whenever they traded Roquan, right? And people are like, what the hell are they doing? Well, now he's turned what he would have spent on Roquan into these two players. Same amount average per year, just about. It's like $24 million for these two defensive players when it would have been $20 million that Roquan was expecting. So I didn't understand that move during the season, but Poles seems to know what he's doing over there with the Chicago Bears, and they might make a quicker turnaround than people are expecting with some of the moves that they're making.
Yeah, Bears are the new Eagles.
Bears are the new Eagles.
Been saying it since the trade.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical of Poles last year. I didn't like that they let Allen Robinson leave, and they could have got a compensatory pick back, but instead signed guys like Byron Pringle and like Al Muhammad Quadine, and they already cut Muhammad Quadine. So like they kind of canceled what would have been a free 3rd or 4th round pick. And then, but a lot of people have been not super impressed with the Chase Claypool trade, right? But in free agency, he seems to know how to swing a deal. TJ Edwards, great deal. Tremaine Edmonds, man, that's going to hurt the Bills. The Bills kind of had to choose between their run stuffing linebacker and their pass down linebacker, which is Matt Milano. They brought back Matt Milano, who's a really good coverage guy, but Tremaine Edmonds leaving. That is not something you just replace easily. Nope. That guy's he's like a 100 tackle automatic machine, right?
Oh, the Bears are going to be thrilled to have him over there.
Yeah.
I see Tim in the chat. What's up, Tim? Tim wants to get Eckler to the Fins. Everybody to the Fins.
Everybody.
Come on, guys. We're going to Miami. Eckler's got a bus just driving around. Just
Mike McDaniel's driving it.
Beep, beep. It definitely makes that noise. It's super high pitched.
Eckler would crush in Miami, though, would he not? Not even just playing, but especially Miami, because not only
Miami.
He would be, yeah. Like, not only would he play well, but I could just picture him tearing up Miami Beach too. You know, the Clevelander.
How long can you implicate yourself on a crime?
I think the statute of limitations has passed on whatever story you're about to tell us.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to check. I got my fake ID stolen at the Clevelander, and I was like 18.
I
had to wander around, and we were trying to like pay bouncers to like get our IDs back and get back in. And we finally did get them back, but then they were like, "We've taken your IDs. We've taken $100 from each of you, and you are not coming into the Clevelander. So go find someplace else to use your fake IDs."
Then we went to a salsa bar.
Literally,
something like that.
Literally, just taking $100 from you, you probably saved money, considering how expensive the Clevelander
is. Yeah, they were like, "Don't worry about it. Like, this is half a drink in there. We'll just call it a day.
We're doing you guys a favor. Trust me."
What's up, Dustin? Dustin said, "Did Simon get a haircut, or is it in a man bun?" Neither. It's in a gross ponytail.
Whoa, that's don't.
Is that you sucking in my ponytail?
that was me riding on a motorcycle behind you, riding on your motorcycle,
inadvertently choking up. So not on purpose.
Oh no.
Now we have to make that. Jail, you have to ride behind me on a motorcycle with a ponytail. I'm gonna grow it out
like Bound 2 style.
Is that the one with Seth Rogen and
that's the one Seth Rogen and James Franco made fun of. Yeah.
Well, we are no Kanye and Kim, so I was going with the Seth Rogen and James Franco version.
Yes, we are them.
We are much closer to them than we are to the other pair that did that.
No leaving this party with nobody to love. And then
I think another
just slurping on his hair.
Just I'd vomit. Another big massive winner. The Falcons. They made moves yesterday. Jonnu Smith, Jesse Bates. Crazy.
Yes, the Falcons were big winners, and then the Bengals, boy, loser city. They not only lost Von Bell, but they lost Jesse Bates. Von Bell led that team in snaps with like 98. He played like 98.8% of the defensive snaps, and Jesse Bates played 98.2% of the defensive snaps. Number one and number
Clear
two
winner.
on the team. The guys that played the most snaps on that defense are both gone, and they're both safeties. So the Bengals got to figure out what's going on in the back end of that defense. On the flip side, if their secondary sucks, that could be great for fantasy football, right?
Basically be like the Chiefs, right? The last
Yeah.
few years.
That'd be the best.
Not a great secondary, but really powerful offense.
That's the best. That's the best thing you can have for fantasy football.
Made the Lions fun to watch this year.
Oh, yeah.
It did.
Man, I just don't want their defense to get better. I want their offense to just keep improving. Like, just keep on going down the offensive rabbit hole. And let's have games that are like 74-65. Just roll it out like that.
I'm about that.
Every single time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Falcons did make some big moves. Jesse Bates, like, I don't know. What do you think about the Jonnu Smith trade? That was kind of a weird one tossed in there, just like a little curveball.
Yeah, I don't know what the strategy is there, apart from just trying to get a talented backup tight end, but you're not using your current tight end. So why go out and try and bolster that position when you're not utilizing it currently? It doesn't fully make sense.
Cooper, are they converting Kyle Pitts fully to a wide receiver, and Jonnu Smith is going to be their starting tight end?
But why?
So last year, they quietly had another inline tight end. His name is Parker Hesse. And he played like 60% of the snaps. Like, they just kind of threw him out there in line and had Pitts play a decent amount of wide receiver. So I think that is the plan. And the reason I like this trade for us is that I was worried that Arthur Smith was going to go out and draft a tight end and throw him in line. The guy, Chris Pelissaro from CBS, and I'm sorry if I butchered his name, he actually had Dalton Kincaid mocked to the Falcons to play their inline tight end, which would have just absolutely obliterated Dalton Kincaid's value. So I am just glad that Jonnu Smith is going to fill that role so that they don't draft like Darnell Washington or somebody. That would have been awful for fantasy football. So thank you for your sacrifice, Jonnu. Enjoy playing offensive tackle for the Falcons.
How, Coop, so you're a tight end guy and a Patriots fan. What was Jonnu's role on the Patriots? Was it a similar role? Was it an inline blocking tight end, or was he playing a different role there?
He was basically in the Martellus Bennett role. So like when the Pats had Gronk, they had him and like an inline tight end.
Martellus.
Yeah, he's a fun guy, right? What do you call himself? The Black Unicorn, which is just a great nickname. But so you had Gronk would line up inline, and then in goal line and stuff, he'd split out wide, and they would just throw him jump balls. That's what Hunter Henry does now. Martellus Bennett would be like the move tight end, where he would play inline as a second tight end. He would also kind of line up in slot. He'd line up just off the line as like an H-back spot, and he would also do a little fullback. That's what Jonnu does. Hunter Henry is good at catching the ball in man-to-man. Jonnu's good at catching the ball in space. Now Jonnu is going to go and do that for the Falcons. Seems to be the case.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case, but you're not expecting him to have relevant fantasy value. Jonnu Smith, this is a football move, not a fantasy move.
Nah, to actually have that, it is possible, but those guys need to be the best two pass catchers on the team. We're talking the Patriots when it was Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, or the Eagles when it was Ertz and Goddard, and they were clearly the best two pass catchers. That's when it works. Drake London's just too good for that to be possible.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? But I will say this. If you're a nickel corner or a safety and they hand the ball to Tyler Algier and you got a 6'4", 6'3" Jonnu Smith coming at you and a 6'6" Kyle Pitts coming at you and a 6'4" Drake London coming at you, that's an absolute goon squad, right? Like, that's a serious run blocking squad on top of the linemen. Like, the smallest dude on the field is Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
That is scary.
It's terrifying.
That is scary.
Good news for Tyler Algier or whoever they bring in next to him.
Yes.
I was having that conversation yesterday with my cousin about Tyler Algier. I want I want to be in based on what I've seen, but I just I need things to settle. I can't get in yet. I can't buy in yet. I need free agency to settle. I need the NFL draft. And then I'll get excited about the most sneaky 1,000-yard rusher from last season.
Yeah, he was the sneakiest. There's no question about that. And he also there's a lot of stats behind the scenes, the yards after contact, and all that. So there's a lot to like in a vacuum about Tyler Algier and Dameon Pierce. And that's the exact thing that NFL GMs never let us have, right? They just, for no reason, they go out and draft Breece Hall, or they go out and draft somebody to ruin it, right? They never let us have any fun. We can't have James Robinson. It's not allowed, right?
Philip Lindsay, not going to happen. I'm just thinking of all the undrafted guys that came out and killed it.
Philip Lindsay has more 1,000-yard seasons than 1,000-yard rushing seasons than Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler combined. That's fact somehow.
That is a wild, and he got most of them while living in his mother's basement.
Also fact. Legend.
Incredible.
Yeah, just couldn't pass block, which is sad. But what are you gonna do?
What's up, Albert? I see Albert in the chat. Good morning, my friend.
Morning, Albert.
And Dustin giving us a warning about the Weddle today. Said they have not updated any players based on signings yesterday because they aren't final yet.
Ah, good info.
Also, we got George in here saying, good morning, Kings and Coop.
Morning, George.
Oh, George, you mother.
Kings and Coop. That would be the name of our Renaissance Fair juggling performance trio. The Kings and Coop. And JL and I would be like partner juggling, and Coop would be like the jester who kept trying to mess us up, and he would come in and knock a ball, but it would all be part of it.
Yeah, he knocks the ball out of Simon mid-air from Simon's throw, and work it into my routine.
Exactly. And Coop just keeps getting flustered. It's a silent act. We aren't speaking. It's like
I'm just getting bumbled around, and I'm just like, come on, guys, let me juggle with you.
It's a mix between pantomime and juggling. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Coming next year to the Texas Renaissance Festival, the Kings and Coop.
Pretty smart stuff, dude. Yeah, George is a classic Boston guy, which the rules of Boston are, it's like your typical friend group rules, where you have to be mean to each other until somebody is mean to one of you, and then you all got their back. But up until that point,
unless that person's Matt Damon.
Unless it's Matt Damon, then you can never have his back.
Then you take Matt Damon's back. Oh, I was going to say Matt Damon is infallible. He is the hero of Boston, the savior of all Bostonites.
Him and Ben Affleck.
And he's good at math.
George knows. Yeah, nobody embodies that more than Mike Fiala too. Daddy's Home. He's just such a jerk.
For the part where
he's
he
also the nicest dude
to have my back.
Yeah, I think he's in Aruba right now. Yeah, he hasn't shown up. You need more people to pick
for that time. I've gotten the mean part of the Boston from him. I haven't gotten the back part.
You need more people to pick on you. That's what you need, JL. You don't have enough haters. Once you get some more haters, then he'll come in and have your back. He always does.
Always does.
Yeah. There was another rule proposal. I just was kind of getting excited about these rule proposals yesterday because I like the idea of the game improving, right? It is a game that can evolve. Don't get stuck in the old ways. And this one, pretty simple. They do it in the NBA. It makes sense. The Eagles submitted a bylaw proposal that would have the game clock use tenths of a second in the final 30 seconds of each half. So they would just have the game clock instead of 30, 29. Please reset the game clock to 16 seconds. They could get it down to 16.5.
How could they do that though? I just feel like precision would be an issue with this.
They've got
the ref would be like, please reset the game clock to 74.32.
So what they'll do is they'll go to video replay. They won't do it manually. This will be, they'll call it, and then in the final 30 seconds, that's why they're doing that. All plays are reviewed automatically, right? If they have a question about the clock, they're going to go ahead and take it straight to video replay, and they'll be able to tell when did the ball go out of bounds, when did the player's knee go down, whatever it is, and they'll be able to clock it to a tenth of a second.
I got you.
A lot of extra work for those guys. Glad they don't have a say in the vote.
Dr. Microanalysis says hundredths of a second.
Dr. Microanalysis. Good morning.
What a perfect time for Dr. Microanalysis to come in. We must get more specific.
More specific, yeah.
More accurate.
They're definitely gonna need those chips in the balls to tell exactly when it goes out of bounds on because a lot of those balls just get chucked in the stands, right?
True. I wonder if those chips could tell you when it goes out of bounds on a kickoff too, or a punt. Not so much a kickoff because that's against the rules, but on a punt.
Surely they could set up. I mean, They could set up a boundary. That's how things work. They have them with shopping carts, where if your
Right.
shopping cart goes outside of this boundary, the wheels lock.
Or
they
like
can-
a electric fence.
Exactly. Or like an electric fence. The ball just goes. Zzz.
I'll tell you. Watch one high level tennis match, and you'll know immediately that it's possible.
Oh, 100%.
Because I've seen it. You know,
They can
It
check
always-
that ball down to the hair.
the
They'll
hair
like
is
they'll like show the replay, and it'll be like half a millimeter, like computer graphic tracked onto the
Right.
court.
Yeah. So I know it's possible. So let's just do it. All right. Thank you.
Simon, you were classically trained as an electrical engineer, me as a computer scientist. Are you concerned at all about error rates here with a chip in the ball?
Yeah, I don't think it would have to be.
It can't be
like,
precise all the time
there
or
would have to be a
accurate all the
check.
time.
A check system in there as well, right? Like this wouldn't be unabetted. Humans don't aid it. It would have to be human aided, but it would be great to have a starting point. I do think in general, even though there's error, it would in general be more accurate to have it done by some sort of computerized system, even if there are errors because of that. So it comes down to the same thing with self-driving cars. How much of the error are we comfortable
what's the threshold?
Are we comfortable being due to machine error as opposed to human error? Because we're a lot more forgiving of human error than we are of machine error. Even though people are getting pissed at the refs, just imagine if it was the chip in the ball that had it spotted before people would go insane. So I think it just needs to reach that certain threshold. Like with self-driving cars, the threshold is 100%. Nobody can die because of these vehicles. That's just what it is. Because if one person dies, people would rather watch 100 people die due to non-self-autonomous cars, which sucks. But the idea that a machine, like it's out of your control, a human didn't cause this, is really something that messes with the human brain. And I think the same thing applies here with the ball. Like on a much less consequential scale.
Yeah.
But we got to reach that threshold. The tech's got to be good enough to get it right 98% of the time.
I think it's worth mentioning because I think when people have this, like we've had this conversation a number of times since we started doing the show, and it's not something we've mentioned, but it's something we should, is that these things aren't going to be infallible. Even if there is a chip in the ball, even if they're improving it, it's not going to be accurate 100% of the time.
Now, I have to ask you guys, as a computer scientist and as an engineer, like creating these computerized footballs, are you concerned at all that they could potentially gain sentience and rebel against the purpose that we've designed them for?
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't want an AI ball.
And with a shape like that, you're in trouble. Know what I mean?
Oblong. We're all
I ain't spiraling today, boy.
Nah, you got to watch out.
Dr. Micronaz in the chat is a big Giants fan, so I thought it'd be useful to go through the Giants' moves this through free agency in the offseason, since we haven't really touched on them much today yet. Daniel Jones, they signed him 4 years, $160 million. They franchise tagged Saquon Barkley. Sterling Shepard, they re-signed to a 1 year, $1.3 million contract. They brought in some defensive help yesterday, Raheem Nunez-Roche and Bobby Okereke, linebacker or defensive lineman, and then a linebacker. Yeah, two big signings.
Bobby Okereke, big. That's exactly what Wink Martindale needed in his offense, is like a very reliable star middle linebacker, because he loves to blitz, and the more reliable the guys are that don't blitz, the crazier the rest of those guys can go. So that's such a good signing. And Raheem Nunez-Roche is the other guy. JB Barry, friend of the show, big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, was very disappointed to see him get signed away. He's a rotational guy at this point, but he's just rock solid nose tackle and defensive player. So, two good signings. And also quietly, they brought back Matt Breida, which I don't know about you guys, but when Saquon goes down, I feel pretty comfortable with Matt Breida in that spot. He looked pretty good last year when Saquon had like the shoulder and neck thing. He went right in, scored a touchdown. So got to be feeling pretty good about that RB room all of a sudden.
Yeah. And they got their quarterback locked up for the future. They got
Dr. Microanalysis likes it too. He said exactly. LB, a wink guy. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why they paid him 4 years. I think it was like $10 million a year, 4 years, $40 million, which for a linebacker, that's pretty good dough. Good for Bobby.
Linebackers getting some money this free agency cycle, it seems like.
Yeah, they are the running backs of the defense. They go out. They have slightly shorter careers. They are seemingly doing everything, and then we turn around and say, "Oh well, you beat yourself up too much, so we can't give you more money." It's like these guys, this is a 100 tackle player. He gets in 100 car wrecks a year for your team. Pay him some damn money, okay?
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
How about this? How about
on.
this argument? Come on.
Do it.
Just
You
do it.
You won't.
Huh?
Man, they also signed a punter, Jamie Gillen, to 2-year, $4 million. I think punter might be the best job in the NFL.
Might be.
Wait, Jamie Gillen, is that the Scottish Hammer? Yeah, they signed the Scottish Hammer. They signed the most exciting punter in the league. The Browns had him for a little while there. He's this Scottish dude with long hair. Sometimes he's got this crazy beard and he comes out and just kills it. He was already with the Giants, though, wasn't it? If I remember correctly, like he was already with the Giants, if I remember. But lock him up. Get the Scottish Hammer a long-term deal.
2 years, $2 million a year to go in and there's not the pressure you have as like a place kicker to be as a punter, because you just come in and like if you mess up, yeah, people are mad, but
They move on so quickly.
they move on so fast.
Simon would be the best GM. He'd be like, all right, so what do you do? Pass rush, okay. And your nickname?
What do you call yourself?
You don't have
For fun?
a nickname? All right. Thank you for coming by today.
We'll be in touch.
The Scottish
Patrick Mahomes.
the Scottish Hammer. He just reaches over, puts a hat on your head. Welcome to the team.
Welcome to the squad.
Megatron.
Yeah, I was about to say, please join Megatron over there.
The Megatron over there.
Get Megatron and Ocho Cinco in the back. We're gonna kill it.
Yeah. One of my favorite underrated nicknames was Robert Turbin. Do you remember Robert Turbin was Bobby Turbo?
No,
Bobby
that is a
Turbo.
great-
I always wanted to be a thing. Whenever I saw Robert Turbin signed, I always wanted to be a thing just so we could call him Bobby Turbo.
The whole Robert to Bobby move is always funny to me. I don't know why. It's just hilarious.
Some of those are such a stretch, though. You know what I mean? Like now I can't remember.
trees.
What is Hank a nickname for?
Henry.
Henry. It's like that's not even close, dude.
Dick Richard.
My girlfriend and I just discussed the Hank to Henry like 2 days ago.
Yeah. How did you get there? And can we?
You
go
know,
back?
I never once thought about it. I've
My
never
least-
once thought in my like best friend growing up when I was in elementary school, his dad's name is Henry and everyone would call him Hank. And I never even thought about the connection. I was like,
Why?
Weird, right?
yeah,
Why? Yeah.
Hank.
Charles going to Chuck is the one that gets me. Like, where the hell did Chuck come from? From Charles.
Makes me think of Dave. Yeah, Chuck. Him and Benny Blanco just call each other Chuck the whole time.
The one that freaked me out the most, my friend Trey. I knew Trey for years. Trey's name was William McKinley. But the third, and apparently the third, he had a different
What?
last name. You can just call someone who's the third.
That feels
Trey.
like he just did that.
I looked it up. It is a common nickname for people who are the third. They go by
That's
Trey, just like
wild.
seconds can go by junior. Trey is like the nickname for people who are a third of a given name. I was like, excuse me? I saw his name written on something. I was like, where's Trey? Where did you get Trey from anywhere in this name? It's like that little 3 at the end.
Oh, makes sense.
My buddy does that. Yeah, it's Doug Kazoyan. They call his kid Trey.
Trey, the third. That's a power move if you made
Pretty
it to the
dope.
third.
Getting pretty
You
deep
guys-
there.
You guys ready to get into some Weddle? We got the warning from Dustin that the players are
Yep.
not on their new teams yet, but we can still get it done.
Let's
still make it happen.
can I just let's wrap the free agency talk. I'm sure we'll
Let's do
pepper stuff in, but I did want to mention one other team, Denver. Denver went out and they loaded up, especially on the offensive line, well, with blocking in general, because they brought in guard Ben Powers from Baltimore. They brought in tackle Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco, and they signed Chris Manhurst,
McGlinchey.
blocking tight end. That's what they said. They signed him.
My Glynchy!
McGlinchey.
McGlinchey. Now my man hurts. They got a McGlinchey and their man hurts. Yeah, so they got Chris Manhurts. You know, they also signed Alex Singleton, their own guy. They brought in Jarrett Stidham. They made a bundle of moves over there to help out Russ Wilson. So it looks like they're taking things pretty seriously over there.
Yeah, it seems like all good moves to support the quarterback is
like it.
what it looks like.
And
They're
pretty soon they're gonna sign Austin Eckler, right?
It's only a matter of time.
Oh my God, that can you imagine? They sign Austin Eckler. Sean Payton just turns Russell Wilson into what we thought Russell Wilson was going to be, and the Broncos go from embarrassment to just one of the best teams.
Oh my God, Joe Lombardi and Sean Payton with Austin Eckler.
That would be fun.
Go ahead and trade Cortland Sutton. You don't need him. You don't need wide receivers, right? Just
trade them all.
175 targets for Austin Eckler.
That would if they sign Eckler and trade Sutton, are we less excited for Dulcich because Eckler's there in a Joe Lombardi system?
Yeah. Well, the thing with Eckler though is that he's also never had 1,000-yard rushing. So I don't count the running back target. They do obviously count, but not in full because they're a extension of the run game.
They're taking away rushing attempts, not necessarily passing attempts.
So it definitely matters, but it's like, we're talking instead of a guy getting 250 carries, he gets like 200 and 100 targets, right? So at the end of the day, I don't think it's as bad. It's definitely not as bad as Cortland Sutton, right? Because Cortland Sutton is another big body. Hey, watch out now. Watch out. Oh, Cortland. Yeah, so we got a bit of a Mexican standoff here.
I lost.
Yeah. So that's I had
mine were real guns.
Yeah, they got kind of a Mexican standoff between Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Greg Dulcich, and one of them's going to lose in terms of targets. So it'd be nice if the Sutton trade rumors end up being true.
Let's see what happens. We'll see. Well, guys, we're about to get into our game of Weddle. This is like the popular word game Wordle or Quordle, but instead of guessing words, we're going to be guessing NFL players and getting a little bit of information about them, like team, number, age, position, height, weight, star sign, favorite color. I added a couple more categories. John Luke, who are we starting with today?
Today, we are starting with Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard.
Not a single thing.
Nothing.
Fantastic.
Nothing yellow or green.
Nailed it.
Since when is Sterling Shepard 30 years old? That happened out of nowhere. I guess it makes sense. He's been in the league a while, but I feel like I still view him as like 24 and about to break out.
It's because we never see him play, dude.
It's because every year I'm waiting for the breakout. Every year I'm like, this year.
And
this year.
He tore his Achilles, hurt his knee. Like, he just never quite plays.
So we know they're in the AFC. They're not a wide receiver.
I thought we were picking a guy that changed teams, though.
Oh, but the changed teams ones don't show up yet. Like, it won't tell us that they changed teams, is what Dustin was telling us earlier. Like, so if you guess a player that has changed teams in free agency, those deals aren't official yet, so they're not in Weddle yet.
So not on the Giants, not in the NFC, not a wide receiver. It's got to be 6 foot or taller.
6'1" or taller.
I'm feeling we can feel pretty good about
taller.
Feel pretty good about QB or tight end here. It could be a tall RB, but he would have to be real tall.
All right, where are we going?
Age 27 or younger, number 6 or higher.
In the AFC, let's go with
let's just pick
Patrick
a quarterback,
Mahomes.
a young quarterback in the AFC.
Patrick
How old
Mahomes.
is he? 28?
20. Yeah, he's 28. He might be too old.
Or is he 27? He might still be 27.
27, I
27.
think.
He's 27.
Okay. Let's go Mahomes.
Oh my God, it is Mahomes.
Let's go. Number
From
2.
nothing.
Beelzebub.
Baby.
Dude, wow. That's impressive.
Let's go.
Awesome.
From Sterling Shepard to Patrick Mahomes.
And we just an easy jump. Well, it's like, who's the opposite of Sterling Shepard? Is what the question was. So, did we get a green light to do the hard one or no?
I don't think so.
We just put in the chat the link to play Weddle along with us. Too bad. We are way too good. And we finished it early, so better luck next time, losers. Guys, coming up, we've got some more games that we're going to be playing. We got some Quotey McQuote face. We're going to do a post-mortem on the Arizona Cardinals NFL season this year. We'll play some vague descriptions and then impart you with some knowledge in the Moreau you know. Right now, you're watching the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Bettor Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft, oh well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here, which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2, 3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. It's in the freaking game. We're about to get into a game we call Quotey McQuoteface, the ever so descriptive title that explains the game that needs no explanation. We are going to be given quotes without sources and without context. We're responsible for providing that to John Luke. So JL and our friend Keith have found a bunch of delicious quotes online before this. Coop and I, one by one, are going to be tasked with doing what I just said, identifying them. If one of us fails, the other one can jump in and swoop the points on either the context or the person who said it. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to remind everyone about a game we've got going on here on the Bettor Sports Network tonight at 6:40 p.m. Whenever you go to watch the first four action from the NCAA tournament. I know everyone's tuning into Southeast Missouri State versus Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's that little appetizer before the March Madness tournament fully kicks underway. Do it with BSN for the Bettor Cast. It's a real-time Q&A contest with real prizes. So tune in at 6:40 p.m. Eastern time for the Bettor Cast to answer predictive questions during that Southeast Missouri State and Texas A&M Corpus Christi game. You guys ready to get into some Quotey McQuoteface?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Simon, you'll be going first in this game of Quotey McQuoteface.
And I'm closing the chats, and that's a reminder to everybody playing. Join the chats. Throw your answers in there. And if you're right, we'll shout you out. If you're wrong, we'll mock you. And anything in between, there is no in between. It's right or wrong.
It's right or wrong. And if you're wrong, we'll send that to your boss. Let them know that you are wrong and can't be trusted anymore. All right, Simon.
And that you were playing games on Tuesday at 8 o'clock.
Hey, 8 o'clock is it's your time. That's your free time.
Prime time.
Start at least till 9.
At least, dude. And
hopefully till 10.
Honestly, yeah. Like, you deserve it. You deserve to relax until at least 10. Hang out with us.
All right, Simon, your first quote. Reminder, you have to tell me who said this and what they are talking about. 2 points available. Here it is. If we haven't talked in the last 3 weeks, don't hit me up about shit. Thanks.
Wow. If we haven't talked in the last 3 weeks,
don't hit me up about shit. Thanks.
I don't know who this is. But I'm going to go with, man, this is tough. I'm going to go with someone who's maybe been a little bit like sassy towards the media, and I think rightfully so with the dumb questions he gets asked. I'm going to go with Devontae Adams is saying this to a reporter. All of a sudden, like now that now that they've replaced him with Jimmy Garoppolo coming in and asking a dumb question about, oh, are you going to miss Derek Carr? Are you worried about playing with Jimmy G? Are you going to try to follow Aaron Rodgers? And he was like, shut up. You haven't talked to me in weeks. You haven't cared about this. Now that we signed Jimmy G, you're coming in and asking.
Simon? That is correct.
What?
Wow!
On
That's
both accounts, this is
crazy.
Devontae Adams talking about after the Raiders signed Jimmy G. Yeah, this is big news yesterday.
That's
Little
amazing.
Dutch in the chat came in, got it right. Devontae Adams, well done.
Yeah.
That sounded like Devontae Adams based on other quotes I'd heard from him recently, but I didn't have the context. I was just trying to piece it together.
That's
Dustin
impressive.
said,
dude.
"No way you don't know this. This was everywhere yesterday."
I didn't see it.
Maybe I saw it subconsciously. and
Bro,
that's where I
how
pulled
could
it
how
from.
could you see all the news yesterday? There was
There was so much.
I would refresh Reddit, and all of a sudden, like, it was Tremaine Edmonds at the top, and now that's 400 posts down. Sam Darnold's at the top. Refresh Reddit, that's 400 posts down, and
Right.
Jimmy G's at the top.
Yeah, and Nick came in and said, "Good morning, guys. Looking good with the haircut, Simon. Unless there's a ponytail back there." Boom,
There it is.
dirty
Oh,
boy. Dirty.
No.
I'm
Oh,
disappointing
no.
so many people today.
So many have come in and been like, "Great haircut."
Oh, my mom's gonna do the same thing. 100%.
It was the first thing I
guaranteed.
said when I saw you.
Honey Coop left the chat when she saw the ponytail.
All right, Simon, you're gonna get 2 points for this one. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I felt good.
And Coop, this next one's yours.
Alrighty.
All right. Here's your quote, Coop. Words can't describe how special these past 4 years have been to my family and me. I've met lifelong friends here, watched my kids take their first steps, and made countless memories. To my teammates, you guys are what I've enjoyed the most and will miss the most. There's something special in that locker room, and I wish I could be there to see it through. Coop, who said this? What are they talking about?
This sounds like I don't know who said this, but let's use a little logic here. This is a player who's leaving his team to another team. My guess is that because rookie deals are 4-year deals, this was a rookie that's getting his second contract. That also, because he's leaving, makes it likely that this wasn't a first round pick because those guys have a 5th-year option. So it could be any one of the 50 guys that are changing teams.
It's like all that to say, a lot of the guys who switch teams fit that criteria. So
It could be anybody. Let me think back on like who. Okay, how about let's go with some big names. How about is this Javon Hargrave talking about leaving the Eagles to go to the 49ers?
Coop. This is not Javon Hargrave. Yeah, Simon, you have the chance to steal.
I'm trying to remember how long this player was with that team, but I'm going to go with it. Not a rookie. Is this Jimmy Garoppolo? I'm going to stay in the same family. Talking
Whoa.
about leaving the 49ers and going to the Raiders.
Jimmy Garoppolo talking
Sure.
about leaving the 49ers to go to the Las Vegas Raiders is absolutely incorrect.
I knew it. I could see it in your eyes.
Show me Jim Jam Galapagos.
Coop.
Jam.
I will offer you redemption.
I'm going to just do the same thing with a different player from the same team. Is this TJ Edwards leaving the Eagles, going to the Chicago Bears? All right, let's just
Simon.
rattle free agents until we get the name.
I don't freaking know. Is this not a free agent, but someone who just got traded in a big trade? And I think he's been in the league for years. Is it DJ Moore going from the Carolina Panthers to the Chicago Bears?
DJ Moore.
Show me DJ Moore.
Wah.
Okay.
Wrong. This is Mike White talking about signing with the Miami Dolphins.
Mike White has a family?
We know he at least has. I remember his wife being like, after he had that big game.
Oh, yeah,
that's
she
right.
was
Who
like,
are
"Who
you?
are
Are you?
This is such a wife thing to say.
Yeah.
100% Marie would have said the same thing. I feel for Mike White.
Yeah.
You have those moments where you're like too cool for who you are. And
Yeah.
like you can always count on your significant other to remind you, like, hey, just heads up, you are not this cool. That was
Yeah,
out
this
of
is
your
an
cool league.
anomaly.
Right, yeah. That's it. Mike White was definitely like, did you see that?
You think you want to watch some tape?
That's like the least cool thing you could say after you do something cool. You saw that, right?
It's so hard though to just stand there and like just stand there and be like, just be cool. Just be cool.
I bet they saw it. I know they.
Did you see it?
Did you see it? Did you see that? Yeah.
All right, nobody's gonna get points on that one, but it was a good attempt.
Mike White. If you gave me 30 or 40 more guesses, I would have got down to Mike White.
You would.
I still think he's like 22 for some reason.
I know, dude. He's really not.
Oh, Mike White, the perpetual 22-year-old. All right, Simon, back to you.
That's me.
Here's your next quote. We'll have new coaches in the building, new players on the team. We're going to have new people that need to be brought up to our standard. And I think that's what's been added to our standard is, like you said, avoiding running into that wall we hit in Jacksonville. Like we were up 27-0 and lost the game. And I'm still salty about that. Simon, who said this? What are they talking about?
This was Jim Irsay talking about the Colts changes that they're making and specifically the collapse against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jim
Oh, wait,
Irsay.
that's the wrong team. I'm an idiot, but I already said
is
it out loud.
incorrect
I
on
was-
both accounts.
No. I pre-decided as soon as you started talking that it was talking about that loss at the end of the season. And then what is wrong with Coop? Here it is. On a silver platter. Take your point.
Is this Brandon Staley talking about the Chargers loss to the Jaguars?
That is incorrect
Ooh. On both fronts?
on both fronts. Simon, I will offer you redemption.
Hmm.
Huh. So not as stupid.
I might need to hear the quote again then. What's the
Can
quote
we get
again?
it one more time?
Absolutely. We'll have new coaches in the building, new
Oh,
players
new
in the team.
coaches. I messed
We're
that
going
up.
to have new people that need to be brought up to our standard. And I think what's been added to our standard is, like you said, avoiding running into that wall we hit in Jacksonville. Like we were up 27-0 and lost the game. And I'm still salty about that.
Oh, so I wasn't listening close enough.
But it could have still been Staley. Like that would have been my guess because he is going to have new coaches in the building, right? He's a coach, but there
Yeah.
are going to be new coordinators and stuff. So that's where I'm confused. I also don't know off the top of my head the Chargers ownership. That is
I
drop.
know.
I'm dropping the ball there. So I'm going to go with a different team and maybe. No, it's got to be the Chargers. It has. So I'm.
Do you know the GM?
No, I do not know the GM.
I
of the
just heard a
Chargers.
quote
I'm
from him. I
blanking.
normally wouldn't, but I just heard the quote from him the other day talking about Keenan Allen.
Okay, so I'm
named-
just going to take a shot here. This is James Weberfield, the GM of the Chargers, talking about the hiring of their new offensive coordinator. We're going to get less specific.
smart.
That is incorrect, Simon, on both accounts.
You telling me
Who?
Weberfield is not the GM?
Telling you
So the-
Weberfield.
so the-
I don't know if Weberfield is the GM.
The GM is Tom Telesco, is his name. But since you used GM there, I'm gonna go with, is this the Chargers owner? And I only know his name because people don't seem to like him. He moved the team, so obviously there's gonna be a good chunk of people that don't like him. I'll go with the owner, Dean Spanos,
Oh, I knew that.
and talking about the Chargers losing to the Jaguars and the turnaround that they're expecting to have with the new additions this offseason.
Coop, I will give you 1 point for that because you were the first person to get the context, hit on the crux of the context here, which is talking about the Chargers next season. Basically, how are they going to do next season? How are they going to make the Super Bowl next season?
It's not Dean
But you-
Spanos?
But it's not Spanos. This was Austin Eckler.
Dude.
This was
Damn.
Eckler. Yep. Yeah, I
I
was
was
going for
between
for
Weatherfield
something
and
next
Eckler.
season, not so much the stuff that was in the quote about just the new coaches, but the specific part of what he's talking about, which is how are they going to do this next season?
That
Like
makes sense.
we got tricked because Eckler just sounds like a boss, dude. So we were
He
trying
does.
to
He
guess
does.
too
Yeah.
many bosses. We're
Yeah,
going
we
with
heard
too many
Eckler quote,
bosses.
and we were like, that dude owns an NFL team. For sure.
100%, dude.
He said salty. I don't think a single NFL owner knows the term salty.
Jerry Jones does.
Yeah.
That's
Jerry
fair.
Jones definitely does. Dude.
Damn it, walked myself right into that one.
But Steven Jones doesn't.
No idea. No
Mm. idea.
Who the heck is Steven Jones?
He's Jerry Jones's son. That
Jerry
I've always-
Jones's kids?
Jerry Jones's kid is he's like the president of the team now. And
Is he the guy
like,
that's always sitting near him in the box,
Yes.
but not quite next to him? You think Jerry's like, sit close to me, but not right next to me?
and you don't know it's his kid because he just looks like another old guy. Like they're both full adults. You know,
They just look like they're about to go like walk around the mall together or something.
just old rich dudes.
So that's what old guys do.
That's what they look
Walk
You
like.
never
around the
seen?
mall.
You guys didn't have herds of elderly walking around your mall for exercise in their Skechers shape ups?
No, that sounds
No.
I
awesome.
thought that was like a common shared experience. Is like you go to the mall, you see the old people doing their laps,
no.
and it's part of like being at the mall.
I
That
saw a
makes
lot
sense.
of that.
It's
in
basically an indoor
Naples.
track.
You got to be there early. You got to that's a morning mall activity. But if you're at the mall in the morning, you're gonna see the old people doing their laps.
It could be an afternoon mall activity, and then you just have more obstacles.
We send all our old people down there where it's warm,
To Florida,
to Florida and to San Antonio, wherever it's warm. We just they migrate down, so we don't really see-
Charleston, Florida.
we don't
San
see them here.
Antonio.
No, they come back sometimes for the summer, but they just go to like Martha's Vineyard. You know,
Checks out.
Oh, and George came in and saying Falcons signing Heineke, and then Dustin coming in backing that up said they're signing Heineke. Looks like Ritter is back to being the starter. How do you guys feel about the Heineke to the Falcons?
Heineke
Yeah.
showed himself to be a capable starter in the NFL. Not like top tier, but he's fine. So probably a good backup for Desmond Ritter. And if things with Desmond Ritter don't progress, you have a serviceable starting quarterback in Heineke. Fine.
yeah, that makes me a little
Heineke-
nervous for drafting Ritter in like best ball where you can't make
Yeah.
waiver moves because like when you have a guy that
He's good enough.
yeah, good enough, then there's a chance to get benched. I don't really love that.
Heineke feels like if Kirk Cousins is on, like, if there's averages right in the middle, Kirk Cousins is like slightly above average talent. Heineke feels like is a perfect inverse.
Kirk Cousins
Brand,
is
like just below average.
He's
But they
as
balance
bad
each
as
other
Kirk
out.
Cousins is good.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins is 1 and he's -1.
and it's not very far apart. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
You
he's
got it.
like a bizarro world Kirk Cousins. I like that.
Yep.
I think that's a good description. And they both seem okay with whatever's happening. Like Taylor Heineke's like, he even said, he was like, well, I'd like to start, but backup QB kind of a dope job, no? Like that's basically what he said
Yeah.
on Barstool, which all right, cool, dude. Like nice.
Reluctant acceptance of everything.
He's not wrong. Backup QB is a sick job. We were talking about it already with the linebackers going in at quarterback. You get to come in and be the hero with no consequences. The problem is when then you only get to do that once. Because then there's expectations.
then
Well,
there's consequences.
I think when you have a guy like Ritter, that's the perfect backup because you don't want like I think that was a big problem with Colin Kaepernick, among many other things that were going on with him, was that he's a very outspoken person and he's going to talk to the media and he wants to start. So if you put a guy like that in the backup role,
Who's good?
he's gonna be
Good
outspoken,
enough to start on other
good
teams.
enough to start. He's a good player and he's also outspoken, and the fans are going to be calling for him, right? Whereas Taylor Heineke, you bring in a guy who's okay with being the backup, and I don't think people are going to be clamoring to get him in there unless things get real bad for Ritter. Like that's the kind of perfect guy. You don't want to go. He's a lower profile option.
Man, if people forget how good Colin Kaepernick was when he played, go watch John Boyce's, I think his chart party. He did a chart party on Colin Kaepernick years ago, and it is fantastic.
I've watched that.
Super
It's
insightful.
It is a great watch. Check it out.
All right, our next quote here. Let's see. Simon went first in that one. No.
It was the
shoot.
long
No, you
one.
guys both got two. You got 2 wrong. So now we are back to Coop. Coop, you're starting this one.
All right.
Oh, I'm already on the new one. Cool. All right, here's your next quote, Coop. He's a very good player. He's going to have a very good career in this league. He makes a lot of plays. If you're not on your stuff, if you let him get comfortable back there, he'll pick you apart as good as any quarterback. Coop, who's saying this? What are they talking about?
Can I hear it one more time? Because last
He's a
time I
very
got it
good
wrong.
player. He's going to have a very good career in this league. He makes a lot of plays. If you're not on your stuff, if you let him get comfortable back there, he'll pick you apart as good as any quarterback.
As good as any. So he's going to have a good career in this league. Makes me feel like it's a young guy, but so much free agent. You think it would be a free agent guy? So how about it's going to be a good quarterback in this league? Is this Josh McDaniels talking about Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, this is not Coop. I'm sorry.
Darn
On
it.
either account. Simon.
Is this? I'm thinking maybe like an underwhelming rookie quarterback is what we're talking about here, and a coach boosting them up. And maybe with the signing we just talked about, maybe that's why it's on my mind, but that's where I'm going to go. Is this Arthur Smith talking about rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder and hyping him up as the starter?
No, this is not Simon.
Felt good about it. I really got my confidence up with the first one, and now I'm expecting everything I say to be right.
Yeah.
Coop, I'll offer you
to-
redemption here.
Yeah. Let's see. Give him time implies that maybe he didn't have enough time last year. Which could be, I mean, like Trevor
I just
Lawrence.
discovered a
perhaps.
different path in my brain, and now we're exploring all these new options.
I'll go with is this Doug Peterson talking about Trevor Lawrence?
This is not Doug Peterson talking about Trevor Lawrence. I'm sorry, Coop. Simon, last opportunity.
So now I'm thinking, Coop, I think you're on the right track with young, but I think maybe we weren't going young enough. This might be a college quarterback that's about to enter the league that somebody's talking about. And maybe not one of the ones that everyone's like the top guy. No, I'm going to go with this is head coach Nick Saban of the University of Alabama talking about his quarterback Bryce Young, and specifically the doubts because he's smaller. He's going to pick that league apart. He's got a great career ahead of him.
Show me Bryce
Simon?
Young.
That is incorrect. I'm sorry. This was Kyle Shanahan talking about Sam Darnold
Oh my goodness.
while he was still playing with the Jets.
Oh wow. Why was he asked about Sam Darnold? They probably play in the Jets and they just like threw it out
That would
there.
be my guess, but I'm not sure.
Interesting.
I'll have to ask Keith on that one.
Or he just the woodwork and was like laying the seeds to get him in free agency. Know what I mean?
What do
Like
you-
just sprinkle an unprompted quote into a press conference that's going to get back to Sam, and then free agency starts. All of a sudden, team first on his mind. Shanahan. likes him.
Shanahan,
What do you guys think about this?
Pavlov's dogs.
This possibility that they've decided to go with Brock Purdy, and they know what the Brock Purdy offense looks like, and they're bringing someone in that they think is similar to Brock Purdy to be backup, with plans to trade Trey Lance. So you would have Brock Purdy and then Sam Darnold, who has a similar type game, rather than having Brock Purdy and then if Brock Purdy gets hurt, now you need to convert the offense to a mobile quarterback offense. What do you think about the possibility that they could trade one of these quarterbacks?
Trade one of these quarterbacks. I think it's low now that they've traded Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't think Brock Purdy. If they traded Trey Lance and stuck with Brock Purdy, that would signify a massive shift in strategy.
For sure.
And so that would be a risky move. I wouldn't expect it from Shanahan. I think it's on the realm, like on the table in terms of pass, but I wouldn't put it in like the top half of pass here.
So we probably need to see
think currently we can see Trey Lance traded with Brock Purdy's injury. Like it is way too uncertain. That is an injury that could prevent him from ever throwing the ball the same way again. And we're hearing things like the surgery got delayed. They say it was successful, but like there's already been setbacks in his recovery. You don't mortgage your future on a quarterback who hasn't thrown the ball and has an injury that takes pitchers out of the game forever, has ruined quarterbacks' careers in the past. So like you gotta wait. Maybe that's in the cards, but like they're not going to know until the season starts if Brock Purdy's going to be back to normal or at least close to it. So I just don't see them trading Trey Lance with that.
Yeah, Sammy's probably coming in to run the scout team and be the backup until Purdy gets back, or if and when Purdy comes back. I like to think he's going to be back, but you're right. It is on the table that he might not be the same. So we can almost.
I wonder if Shanahan still feels this way about Sam Darnold. I mean, he just brought him in.
He must at least a little bit, right?
Must at least a little bit, but I wonder if anything has changed.
Just
now that he's seen him in person.
Just just add a little line and then write like as a backup.
He calls up Robert Saleh and he's like, "This does not look like the pictures you sent me."
He looks nothing like Jimmy G.
He's gonna have a good. He's
nowhere near as handsome.
Yeah.
Catfished. But with Sam
Darnold. Gets catfished by Sam Darnold.
Classic mistake.
The Lego man shows up in San Francisco.
Now I just picture him with Darnold sitting in his office, and he's just holding up a picture next to his face. He's like, "Wait a second.
I don't see it." He's like, "No, I am Sam Darnold."
I don't know.
I don't believe you. All right. Well, the score is currently 2-0. Simon, you are in the lead. We are getting on to our next one. This one is yours, Simon.
Coop got a point for the context of the Chargers one.
You're right.
Yes, I did.
2-1.
Thank you for defending my honor. Possession arrow your way, Simon.
Thanks.
Coop. Simon. Here's your next quote.
Coop, Simon, you're up.
Coop, Simon. Quite honestly, I haven't really thought much about it. This entire year, really, I've just been focused on whatever my role was, whether that's being the backup or these last 2 weeks preparing as a starter. To be honest, I haven't really given it much thought. We'll see how it plays out. Simon, who said this? What are they talking about?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea. Sorry, could you read it one more time?
Quite honestly, I haven't really thought much about it. This entire year, really, I've just been focused on whatever my role was, whether that's being the backup or these last 2 weeks preparing as a starter. To be honest, I haven't really given it much thought. We'll see how it plays out.
Last 2 weeks preparing as a starter. Who started towards the end of the season? Or the last 2 weeks wouldn't necessarily have to mean the last 2 weeks of the season. You could say these last 2 weeks, the previous two. This is Gardner Minshew talking about whether or not he wants to be a starting quarterback in the NFL when asked about it during the season, when he was going to be the starter while Jalen Hurts was injured.
Gardner Minshew is incorrect. Coop.
I've got one. Because I'm trying to think of who is going to be starting after being the backup last year, and there's one name that's pretty obvious to me. Though this whole last 2 weeks thing makes it sound like he got some news within the last 2 weeks that makes it clear that he's a starter. Which I wonder, because we have heard comments from this team's GM saying that we hope we'll work out a deal to move our starting quarterback. We feel confident in this guy. So I'm thinking that this is Jordan Love talking about becoming the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers with a pending Aaron Rodgers trade.
Jordan Love is incorrect, Coop.
Felt
Simon.
Good. Felt right.
Redemption.
I was so ready to just be like, nice job, Coop. I'm going to say we're going to go back to the well with an answer I've done. This sounds like a quarterback. Like, for some reason, it feels like when players talk about like whether it's preparing to be the starter, that just sounds like a QB move. So let's go with Jimmy Garoppolo. He was comfortable being the backup whenever he was the backup. Whenever he came in to start, he was cool with it. Let's say Jimmy G switching team, or this was about him talking about his role with Trey Lance on the team.
Jimmy Garoppolo is incorrect.
Damn.
So Simon, you just opened the door. Can we hear the quote one more time? Yeah, I think you just opened the door for me to the possibility that it might not be a quarterback. That it could be other positions.
By saying it must be a quarterback, Coop's like, if Simon thinks
I was like, wait a second. Doesn't have to be a quarterback, though. So what do we got?
All right, last time. Quite honestly, I haven't really thought much about it. This entire year, really, I've just been focused on whatever my role was, whether that's being the backup or these last 2 weeks preparing as a starter. To be honest, I haven't really given it much thought. we'll see how it plays out.
Interesting. Last 2 weeks, which means 2 weeks ago something happened. Trying to think of some trade, like there were guys that might have been traded around, flying around.
Also could be an old quote.
Could be an old quote. Yeah, that's
Like the Shanahan one was from during the season.
right. Last 2 weeks. This is tough.
Gonna be.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to just like nail the exact spot, but last 2 weeks, somebody leaving.
Take
Is
a
this
shot.
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna throw out is this James Cook talking about being the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills?
James Cook is incorrect. This was Jared Stidham on whether he wanted to, or whether or not he would be the starter for the Raiders following the last game of the season.
That checks out.
Yeah,
That's a good
that
one.
checks out. And then he signed to be the backup with the Broncos.
Yep.
So the
That
answer
would've
was
been-
no.
So the answer is no.
So good call on it being a older quote, Simon. That would have
Yeah,
been
you nailed that,
pivotal.
Simon.
All right, that's cool.
Simon's gonna win this game 2-1, low scoring game.
Yeehaw!
Tough quotes. I mean, it's easier with slow news days, I feel, because sometimes I do see the comments, but there was too much yesterday. There
There
much
was so much,
flying around.
I'd like to thank Devontae Adams for saying such a recognizable quote. Without you, this wouldn't have been possible, my friend. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible.
Well, Dutch said Devontae Adams one was easy. Rest have been damn near impossible.
Very difficult to
I
Yeah,
take the
take that-
points
take
how I
that out
can
with Keith.
get them, Lil Dutch.
Take that out with Keith.
Little Dutch.
That's Lil Dutch. Am I Big Dutch?
Oh,
Yes, you
I
are,
guess
man.
so. Yeah,
No, you're
He's
tiny.
Dutch?
accurate.
You're tiny.
Accurate.
You're tiny Dutch. Little Dutch
I'm
is the
the-
biggest one.
I'm even Liller Dutch.
Even Liller Dutch. What's up? With a Dutch voice. This is Tiny Dutch. And that's his preposterously small Dutch.
Miniature Dutch.
Preposterously small Dutch. This is micro Dutch.
Dr. Micro Dutch.
Preposterously
Itty
small
bitty
Dutch.
baby Dutch.
Yeah.
Dinky
Lil-
Dutch is right
Lil-
around the corner.
He goes, Little Dutch, lots of green. Attaboy.
Lots of green.
Attaboy. Attaboy,
Well, guys,
Dutch.
coming up, we are going to talk a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals last season and maybe a peek looking forward. We've got a game of vague descriptions coming your way, and then we're going to impart some knowledge on you in a segment we call the Moreau You Know. Right now, you're watching the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Sell me on doing away with the two conference system in the NFL.
Is it really a sale whenever this is something that's commonly agreed upon? I'm selling you on water being wet. I'm selling you on something that is objectively true right here. We look at teams at the end of the season and we go, how the hell does one team have such an easy schedule while another team is just absolutely getting obliterated? And that's because of the two conference system, because the division system feeds into this conference system. It's a symptom of the greater problem. Like these divisional matchups, you're telling me it's fair that the Buccaneers are in the playoffs after playing the Panthers twice, the Falcons twice, and the Saints twice this year? That is unbelievable. There are multiple more deserving teams every single year that because of this system where we silo them into random groups, it determines the order. And yes, originally this was geography based, right? We have these divisions, they were geography. It's 2023, my dudes. Geography doesn't matter whenever it comes to the size of the United States. These teams can travel anywhere. They don't need to geographically locate them in divisions or conferences to make the games make more sense. If USC can be in the Big Ten, why the hell can't Miami play San Francisco every year? It can happen. They've got more money than these colleges and they're not taking classes. All it does is create an ecosystem where less talented teams can get rewarded for playing in weaker divisions and more talented teams are punished for continuing to improve.
Damn, bro.
Drop the mic.
I like to picture some geography teacher out there just threw a pen on the ground. He was like,
How dare you?
he smacked the globe. He was
I'm
like, what do
doing
you
all
mean?
the hard work we've done.
2023 geography doesn't matter, right? Smacks his
You know
globe.
how long it took for us to get respect?
Globe goes spinning around, right? Geography doesn't matter. How dare
I'm
you?
just imagining they ripped on the world map and underneath is algebra 2. Like they just go straight into being a math teacher.
Yeah.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Paper straws
Oh, they're so bad, Ray. I mean, I'm almost tempted to say screw Mother Earth. Give me a real straw. The paper straw thing is a step too far in saving the planet for me.
It's a great idea. The problem is it has to last. Like, it can't go mushy halfway through my drink.
That's
And
the
I think
problem.
That's the problem. They have a hard time standing up if you don't drink that.
100%. That's my issue, Ray. I'm all for taking care of the only planet we got. But, Ray, some people like to drive a lot. I don't. I don't get on them for they have to drive 20 minutes to work every day. Can I just get a plastic straw? Like, I think, Ray, we should be able to pay for a card that says, I don't drive every day, so they said I could have this kind of environmental impact by getting a plastic straw. I am in favor, Ray, of government-issued plastic straws if I have the proof that I'm worthy of such. If you want it, you get it. It's kind of like the Clear Pass. You know,
Yeah,
at the
there you go.
airport.
Okay.
Like, Ray, I'd be willing to pay an extra $2 a year, and I get as many plastic straws as I want when I go out to the restaurant.
And the $2 goes toward cleaning the oceans or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not a terrible idea. Not terrible.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Better Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Better Sports Network. We're about to get into our post-mortem on the Arizona Cardinals, but before we do that, we are getting some news in the chatter, some rumors that are coming out. Albert came in here a little bit earlier and asked, do you think the Jets sign Alan Lazard? And Dustin coming and echoing that, saying, if the Jets sign Lazard, being reported, is that a move that sets up a Rodgers trade that involves Elijah Moore?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Whoa.
I think that would be such a good situation where both sides really benefit. Elijah Moore gets a new team. The Packers, they get rid of Aaron Rodgers and Alan Lazard. They don't have to give Alan Lazard a huge contract. They can get a rookie, right? Or he's going into his sophomore year, but he'll still be on his rookie contract in Elijah Moore and hopefully picks.
Interesting. They can also cut if they need to. Like, say they want Lazard to play split end. Corey Davis can be cut $10 million in savings, and I think it's only like $600,000 on the books. So Corey Davis could be cut for nothing.
Yeah. No, I think this makes a ton of sense. I want to see Elijah Moore on a new team. He's like, his talent didn't just disappear. It just seems like an irreparable relationship there with the Jets. Let's put him on the Packers. Give Jordan Love a young weapon in that offense, and we're good to go. What does that do for Lazard's fantasy value? I mean, if Rodgers goes there and Lazard is also there, is he a wide receiver too?
Same as it ever was.
Same as it ever was.
I think it's a bit
double-digit touchdown, 800 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Kind of, right? Like,
yeah, I want to I think there are things that are positive. Like, I think the Jets are probably a better team, just personnel-wise right now. But there's more competition there for him. There's less competition in Green Bay.
I've been looking at end zone targets, and there's only two guys that have double-digit end zone targets 3 years in a row now.
Let me guess. Mike Evans and Alan Lazard.
So close, dude. So Mike Evans is 2 years in a row.
Shoot.
But that's such a good guess. It's DK Metcalf and Alan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That checks out.
Mike Evans is right there. He's right on that list. Like, if you were just to take the totals over those 3 years, then Evans is on that list. So is Justin Jefferson and those guys. But yeah, those two guys just get peppered in the end zone. And we've seen Rodgers do this his whole career, whether it's Robert Tonyan getting 11 touchdowns or Jordy Nelson. Or there was that one year remember that year James Jones just wore a sweatshirt under his like uniform every game and caught like 12 touchdowns or something stupid. Like,
I forgot about it.
Like, he just picks one guy and he's like, all right, we're going to figure out the timing. And when I need you, you're going to score a touchdown. So no question in my mind that if he goes to the Jets, Alan Lazard's going to be that guy, right? Because they already have that figured out.
So stupid that he wore a hood. I'm just looking at the pictures again, and I'm like that's the dumbest thing you could do is give people a handle to pull you down with on the back.
They made it illegal immediately after that year, and he scored 14 touchdowns in 16 games. Right after that year, like, they were just waiting for that season to end so they could say, okay, we all agree that is dumb, right? Like, no one's allowed to wear a sweatshirt anymore, right? And everybody except James Jones is probably like, yeah.
He's like, I need my hood. Hal down here said Randall Cobb. Yeah, that's another one that Rodgers has locked onto in the past.
Jordy
But-
Nelson, bring him back.
Man, I'm right there with you guys though. It's just Alan Lazard again. Like
Lazard got 100 targets this past season, which
Mhm.
isn't terrible.
Oh,
It also
that's-
isn't fantastic. He's not in the top 25 of all wide receivers here. Just to give you some context, the upper range, Justin Jefferson had 184 targets. And then we haven't even really mentioned what this does to Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
I think
don't
Garrett
think
Wilson. I think his role in that offense is probably still fairly safe. Like Lazard,
147 targets for Garrett Wilson this year. He's in the top 8.
what you mentioned for
Top
Lazard
6.
though, like the 100 targets, I think that's about what he gets though. Know what I mean? Like I think even if he comes in there and he's the 2, I think he just gets about 100 targets. That leaves plenty to have 147 targets for Garrett Wilson. If they're only having 247,
Like not much for anybody else.
Yeah.
How many times did the Jets throw the ball last year?
How many
Brian?
times? How many
Good
targets?
question.
Is, like,
a lot
la-
because of Joe Flacco. Those Joe Flacco weeks are like 100 each.
Exactly. And he's not going to throw it at. He's not going to be throwing it. It's not like Tyler Conklin or CJ Zoma need a ton of targets. It's not
Brees
like
Hall.
Brees
They're
Hall's the guy
Brees
that
Hall.
Brees Hall's the guy that's going to get targets. So it could just be that. It really the Elijah Moore trade is going to be important here. Let's get him out.
Yeah.
Let's get him out.
So they had 357 pass attempts last season, or no, 627 pass attempts last season, 357 completions. So when I look at that, like I view Lazard the same that I viewed him, and it's not affecting Garrett Wilson, especially if Elijah Moore's out of there. I think Garrett Wilson's role is safe. He's the one. If I'm worried about a player, it's not Wilson in that offense. He's so freaking good, man. He's so good.
So good.
So we're gonna see, but the Jets will be immediately scary if they do that, and it'll just if Rodgers is sitting there saying, "I'll sign the contract if you sign my friend," that is the dumbest and also simultaneously most believable thing about this whole thing, right? And he's like, "I want Kumaro too." They got to sign Jake Kumaro and Jeff Janis, just all the boys.
Hal said Lazard is the TD machine, and A-Rod loves his blankie.
Right.
Blanky.
And Dustin says, and Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is going to be 39 this year. I'm not sure. I mean, if he wants to play, somebody will bring him as a blocking tight end. But
it'll be confusing to see Lazard and Rodgers in different green. You know what I mean? Like if they were going to an entirely different team, I feel like it'd be an easier adjustment period. But they're going from Green Bay green to New York green. Like it's just going to be a little different, not fully different.
It's because the green is in the name of their name too.
The Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, because they're not that green of a team, but you think they're like in your mind, they definitely feel more green.
They got green jerseys, right? Or am I just imagining that?
I don't think they have green dominant. I think it's yellow with the green or white with the green.
I'm picturing Aaron Rodgers in full green every time I picture him.
I could be
It
wrong.
changes every day.
Jets. So, the Jets. Interesting fact about the Jets is that Woody Johnson, every once in a while, will just tweet and ask the fans what jerseys they want to wear. And he'll say, like, what should we wear this week? Or, like, what combo should we do? And if they lose wearing a certain combo, like, really bad, he'll stop using that combo. So, like, he'll mix and match. And I remember one game.
Oh, yeah, it's 100% green. I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
My bad. I guess I can't remember anything.
I remember one game, Woody Johnson, the fans were like, no, we got crushed wearing that. And then, the next time they said the same thing about the other combination. So he actually like wore the white shirts with the green pants or something ridiculous one game. Like it's just completely absurd combos. Like Woody Johnson is one of the weirdest owners when it comes to the uniforms. He's willing to just like mix and match based on superstition, which
Speaking of
like
mix and match, I was looking at a Dick's Sporting Goods site this past weekend because my mom got me a gift card for Christmas, and they have so many of those split home away jersey designs, and they are the ugliest things I've ever seen. You know what I'm talking about? Where they take a jersey and they split it in half, and then they split like the name box in the back in half. It's absurdly ugly.
Like the house divided jerseys.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, but
yes.
it's like the same team. It's like Brett Favre Green Bay. Like I'm looking at a Brett, like this one just popped up. Brett Favre Green Bay Packers jersey, but it's a 1996 split throwback. So it's half yellow, half green.
Ew.
And it's ugly.
Disgusting. I am not a fan of those split jerseys. Not a fan at all.
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
Joey in the chat said, Dick is a bad word. Tristan on the way to zoo camp. Tristan, I apologize. I will not say that anymore. Thank you for keeping me accountable. Well, guys, we are about to talk about the Arizona Cardinals and their season in review. It was a rough one for them. I went through last night and was reading some articles, like just some like Arizona beat writers' opinions on how the season went. And there was a quote from an Arizona beat writer that I wanted to start this segment with. This was written by Kent Summers of the Arizona Republic. And he said, this is the Cardinals' 35th season in 35th. This is the Cardinals' 35th season in Arizona. And when it comes to drama, controversy, tragedy, and assorted shenanigans, the 34 previous ones are competing for second place. So this is a dude who's covered it a long time and saying this is the craziest, most dramatic, weirdest season he's seen for the Cardinals. And from the outside looking in, they finished 4-13 after being a relatively successful team the past couple of years, last in their division. Their head coach got fired. Their quarterback had rumors of not being a good leader and not getting along with the coaching staff. Their top wide receiver missed half the season. They had injuries galore. It was a mess. But whenever we look at this team, John Luke, what stands out to you from the Cardinals this past season?
Circumstance. I mean, the situation for them was rough. I mean, they just got hit after hit. And it kind of felt like how the 49ers have felt the last few years, where not all of it was within their control. In fact, a lot of it wasn't in their control. And it was a bad season. There's no real two ways about it. But there were definitely bright spots. I mean, this defense had some stretches where they were fantastic. And the offense, showed flashes where they looked explosive as well, especially when DeAndre Hopkins came back. And even before that with Marquise Brown, it looked electric. So it felt like together, if they had stuck with it a little longer, now I feel a little less confident in that.
Yeah, I think it seems pretty clear with this new regime coming in. Like you say, Jail, if they had stuck with Cliff Kingsbury, then they would have kept pushing, right? And kept trying to win, which is what we saw with like the Lions with Matt Patricia, where they drafted DeAndre Swift and just with the last year there. And then the new regime had to come in and clean that up. The new regime comes in now, and it seems pretty clear they're going to have a bridge year here, right? Like this is going to be the odds of them winning the Super Bowl. They're bottom three. So Vegas is already predicting them to have a bridge year. They cut Robbie Anderson. They're letting Rodney Hudson walk. They're trying to trade DeAndre Hopkins. They won't have their starting quarterback to start the season. They won't have their starting tight end to start the season. Like this team, if I had to guess, could easily end up with a top 5 pick this year, right? So I'm looking at a team that is going to have a bridge year, but they have enough pieces where they can turn it around fairly quickly. It's just, they got to convert over to the new offense, convert over to the Jonathan Gannon's defense and start fresh. So I think this is going to be, if my opinion is that this is going to be a pretty bad year for the Cardinals.
It's not turning around.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
turning
want,
around
they just,
for them.
I mean, I don't know. Like it all depends. Like you also have to see what they do at starting quarterback. Are they just going to start Colt McCoy? I don't think so. They already said they aren't committed to Colt McCoy. So you could see they could bring in, I mentioned earlier, Gardner Minshew, who Jonathan Gannon's familiar with. They could bring in Jacoby Brissett to start the first few games of the season. The GM, Monty Austinfort, was with the Patriots when they drafted Jacoby Brissett. So he obviously likes him. So it's like it depends. Maybe they do try and win right now, but they obviously need to bring in a quarterback that can win the first quarter of the season, half of the season, whatever it takes, waiting for Kyler to come back. But it's like you look at it, this is exactly what it looks like when I see teams do a bridge year. They let their punter walk, they let their kicker walk, they let Marcus Gold's walking. Like you just let all the teams that are going in now go out of their way to sign a good kicker and a good punter. Teams like this are just like, we're not going to pay these guys. We're just going to bring in whoever, and because we don't care, So that's what the vibe I get from this team going forward is that it's going to be kind of a bit of a skeleton crew, which for fantasy football sometimes can be great. Whoever's left over on this team could see a ton of targets and a ton of looks. I mean, what do you guys think about that side of things? We've seen it with think about when the Dolphins did their bridge year when they were trying to get Tua. Even Preston Williams was getting peppered with targets. We watched with the Browns, Terrell Pryor had a 1,000-yard season when they were tanking.
Terrell Pryor, man.
When the Rams were tanking to get Jared Goff, or I think it was Jared Goff's first year when they didn't really have anything, Kenny Britt had 1,000 yards. So I don't know, like whoever's left, Marquise Brown could get 175 gazillion targets, right?
Yeah, Marquise Brown's the name that stands out to me as the dude that's going to get hit with those targets. What about at the tight end position? Zach Ertz, is he back with that team next year?
He is back. His contract is set up where he's due $12 million. He can't be cut. Like I think they sat down and his agent drew up a contract where he can't be cut, but he can be traded. It's $12 million he's due. If he's cut, they only save $2 million. $10 million is dead cap. So that's not happening. If they trade him, it's kind of split down the middle. They eat $6 million in dead cap and they save $6.6 million. So he could be traded. But the thing is, he just hurt his knee. So I don't know if anybody's willing to trade for that. I think more realistically, he could be like a mid-season trade or something. But for the time being, we have to see how he comes back from this injury. But Trey McBride will probably start the season as a starting tight end because I don't know if he's going to be ready.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Hallen here, just an interesting tidbit when you were talking about those split jerseys, JL. He said it's from all the relic cards that they use for those jerseys. So, like, you get the cards that have the little piece of jersey actually in them, the same half for the cards, and then they've got half jerseys. I am curious if that's how they do it. That would be pretty cool.
That'd be wild if they like actually cut in the jerseys and that's how they do it.
That is wild.
Pretty cool. That would be cool.
Yeah. So that'll be something. Yeah, it'll be something to see with these cards, dude. What do you think about where do you guys stand on James Conner? Right? How do you guys feel about him? He's a guy that fairly injury prone, but when he's healthy, pretty good.
Builds it. Yeah. He's a touchdown machine when he's healthy, is what it seems like. And if DeAndre Hopkins is going to be gone, Kyler Murray isn't going to be starting at the beginning of the season. If they've got a Jacoby Brissett in there, then it's going to be I feel like it's going to be a focus on James Conner as one of the premier pieces in this offense, right? This offense, before Kyler Murray gets back, is going to run around. Zach Ertz is out. Kyler Murray out. DeAndre Hopkins traded. It'll be Marquise Brown and James Conner that this offense is kind of focused on, it seems like, just looking at the names that are going to be on this team.
That doesn't instill a ton of confidence for me. I don't think an offense can run entirely through James Conner and Marquise Brown. I feel pretty big hesitancy there.
Well, I think they're gonna suck, but I don't really care if the team sucks as long as Marquise Brown gets 10 targets a game.
And if James Conner gets 20 carries, then you're pretty happy with that, right?
Right. The Texans sucked last year, but Dameon Pierce is pretty good.
Until he wasn't. Until he broke down.
In some of the games he was bad.
Yeah.
Some of the games he was bad. And that's the concern with James Conner. I get what JL is saying on that, is that like running is the luxury of the winning team at times. So if you have a guy that is just okay at catching passes and really relies on touchdowns, there might not be a lot of touchdowns for James Conner to have.
It didn't feel, watching their games this season, it didn't feel like James Conner couldn't have been replaced with another similarly talented running back.
Oh, I agree.
Or even slightly less talented running back who could have achieved probably similar results. It didn't feel like he was really making a difference on this team. The year before, absolutely. I mean, he had all those touchdowns, a 15 touchdown season. This year, 700 some rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns. It just didn't really feel anything special. So I'd be pretty worried. Marquise Brown, I do think both of these players are above average at their position. Marquise Brown, I'm higher on the James Conner. I just worry that if it's just Marquise Brown, is he going to really be able to set himself apart here?
Yeah, he's going to have like 12 targets for 55 yards every game. It's going to be great in PPR.
Yeah.
Rondale, and then the other guy on the team, Rondale Moore. People have a lot of hype in this guy. He's an incredible athlete for his size, like 95th percentile speed, 97th percentile agility based on player profiler, based on my memory. So might not be exactly right, but I know he's 95th percentile speed. The thing is, he's small. He's like 5'8", 180 pounds, and he's not good in the run blocking game. So I don't know if he can be a full-time guy, but I mean, if they're not going to bring people in, I'm always interested in the ghost ship players when they have nobody else to throw to, because we've seen it time and time again. Like, if you only have a couple guys, I've seen Robert Foster on the Bills have multiple 100-yard games. I've seen Keelan Cole have multiple 100-yard games on these like rebuilding teams. So I'm always interested to see who's going to be the beneficiary of that.
Joe, what about your favorite player in the NFL, Greg Dortch? Do you think with
Greg
all the
Dortch.
pieces leaving, there's maybe an additional role in this offense for him? But Coop, the player you just brought up, Rondale Moore, him and Greg Dortch kind of play that same role on the field, it seems like. When Moore's in,
Little
Dortch
guy.
is out.
Yeah,
Greg
they
Dortch
both play the little guy.
Greg Dortch was almost better at being Rondale Moore than Rondale Moore was.
He really
when
was.
Rondale Moore was hurt, Greg Dortch was awesome.
Greg Dortch is even littler than Rondale Moore. That's why he's better at being the little guy. He's 5'7".
Yeah, he's a little guy.
Yeah. Greg Dortch a restricted free agent, so they were able to bring him back on a tender. They basically, I forget, I don't know what level they tendered him at. Might have been a second year tender, but he's back. So it's gonna be a little boy squad.
Little boy squad.
Them both out there.
I want to see what they do at
in the
quarterback.
chat said, "Man, good luck with A-Rod. Keep waiting
For Aaron
We
Rodgers,
will. Yeah."
we are going to keep on
Yes, we
waiting.
will.
I got
And
no
Rusty
other
said,
option.
"What's the Pats doing today?" Coop, you have any insight in the Pats' plans today?
Yeah, I mean the Patriots, I think, are one of many teams that are waiting for, because the Patriots have money, and Bill Belichick alluded to the possibility that they spend that money. Like he basically said they've been bottom. He had comments where he didn't even need to say it. He comes out and says, if you look at the last 3 years overall, we're a bottom team in the league in spending. They did spend 2 years ago on Hunter Henry and Matt Judon and Jonnu Smith, but last year they didn't do anything. So this year I think they do. And I think they're waiting to see what happens with the wide receiver market, whether they can bring back Jacoby Myers on a decent deal or whether they want to go out and buy Juju or buy somebody. But they need somebody to play flanker on this team. They have Devontae Parker as split end, but you need somebody to play slot, flanker, that Edelman role, that Welker role, with the role that Jacoby Myers himself played. So I think we do see them sign a wide receiver once those contracts start coming around. I was hoping yesterday they would get Jesse Bates, but the Falcons made Jesse Bates the 4th highest paid safety of all time, which that doesn't if a team wants to do that, then they can do that. But I could see them. It's hard to go. If you're the Falcons, you have all the money in the world, you can do whatever you want. You're the king. So good for you. And the Patriots gonna have to look elsewhere. But Devin McCourty retired, so they're gonna need to do something there too. So I could see them going after wide receiver.
Are now both brothers retired?
Yes, they're both retired now. His brother.
One's on Good Morning Football.
Yes, yeah, they're probably gonna do a show together at some point. That's gold, right? Two brothers.
He's great on Good Morning Football.
Yeah, they're both very well spoken, like hilarious dudes. So I hope they both end up doing something together. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, the Patriots are expected to be in the mix for a lot of big names. So they're expected to be in the mix for Orlando Brown, which is one of the best remaining offensive tackles. They're in the mix at safety, and they're in the mix at wide receiver. So Rusty, keep your eyes out, man. Big deals coming at some point.
Big deals coming at some point for you guys. Hal in the chat excited about Dortch. Dortch the Torch. Dortch the Torch. And then wants to know, is that Thornton guy going to develop into what? So Tyquan Thornton, the speedster out of the last combine, had a couple flashy plays last year for the Patriots as well.
Yeah, so with him, he's going to replace all of Nelson Aguilar's snaps. He already kind of was as the outside speed guy. With those guys, though, you need them to – he can be a field stretcher no matter what, but you need those guys to develop a full route tree to be consistent. Like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill went from being just an outside speed guy to being a guy that runs all the routes. Thornton, he's either going to end up being that kind of guy, or he's going to be a guy that just comes in for obvious pass plays, but comes off the field for 2 wide receiver sets. So I'll be interested to see there. It would be nice if the Patriots actually hit on a wide receiver one time, but who knows? I mean, the guy is crazy fast, 99th percentile speed for this guy. I think he ran like a 4.27 or something crazy, like absurd.
And his unofficial time broke the combine record. I remember everyone blowing up about it. And then the official time was a little slower, but still by far the fastest of any wide receiver at the combine last year.
Right. Yeah, second round pick. If he got drafted by any other team besides the Patriots, we would be all over this guy. Just the fastest guy getting picked in the second round, and he's like 6'3" or something. People would love this guy if he went to a different team, but because he's the Patriots, he can't possibly be good. And they're probably right.
You said with attitude and then said, and probably correct.
Yeah.
Because before we move on from the Arizona Cardinal season review, one thing that they do have going in their favor is they've got that 3rd overall pick in the draft this year. So the season was bad, but they are picking 3rd overall behind 2 teams that are expected to take quarterbacks. So they'll have their pick of non-quarterbacks at that position, or they can trade down with one of the other teams that needs a quarterback. Maybe the Colts are looking to move up 1 spot, make sure they get their guy. What do you guys think they're going to do with this 3 spot? Is it going to be a BPA situation? We're rebuilding. We need everything. Take the best player. Or are they going to trade and try to get more value from this?
What do you think, Joe?
What
would you do?
I don't know.
Jay?
I'm undecided.
What would you do? Not what do you think they do? Put yourself in the GM shoes here. You're taking over, like you're changing everything to your regime. Jonathan Gannon, they're letting all these guys walk, right? Like they're changing everything over. If you're going to start somewhere, where do you start?
I start here, Coop. It's you.
Right here?
It's you.
I thought you were going to do I thought you were gonna do one of these and point to the heart. Instead, you did some weird robot thing.
It was Jonathan Gannon.
That's the Jonathan Gannon.
Oh, that is the Jonathan Gannon.
Shoo, shoo, shoo.
You're fast. You can run. Shoo. Okay. So you've that's where you've begun. Where do you go next?
That's where I begin. Where do I go next?
With the 3rd pick of the NFL draft.
Shoo.
So just take the fastest guy.
Take the fastest guy.
Joe says take the fastest guy. Joe says they're drafting Anthony Richardson, and they're going to have a 2 QB system there.
Ooh, the first one.
The first one ever. And then they're going to trade for Lamar.
Just do like you do. You ever play like NFL Blitz where you just throw it back and forth behind the line?
100%.
Just saying.
They got to. I think they just use the pick. I don't think they're trading it. I think they take best player available. There's a pretty deep class of defensive talent in this draft. They can take the guy they want there at 3. The only way I see them trading it is if this Anthony Richardson hype gets out of control and some team is just like, I got to have him at 3. I got to have him at 3. And then we could see the Cardinals move down a couple spots. But I don't see them moving out of the top 10.
Do you take, if you're going to take the best defensive player available, do you take the kid Will Anderson? Or do you take the high risk, high reward Jalen Carter?
Probably just go Will Anderson, right?
I would too.
Yeah.
I would too. I don't like scrutiny. I don't like what I personally I like to scrutinize others, but I don't like being scrutinized. So I would just pick Will Anderson and everybody clapped.
How should they trade Kyler and take Stroud? What are they trading up to number 1 from the Panthers? Gonna steal that pick from them?
There are rumors the Panthers been, floating around. Maybe they trade back down.
That would be absurd if they traded back down. That would be absolutely absurd. Well, guys, coming up, we got some more games coming your way. We're going to play some vague descriptions and then a segment we call the Moreau You Know, where we're going to impart some knowledge that we've learned over the past week onto you guys and each other. You're watching the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
As a longtime baseball fan, here's my message to other baseball fans, to steal a line from the Packers' future Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Everyone needs to relax after what we saw this past weekend as spring training games out in Arizona and down in Florida got going, and we're inching closer and closer to Major League Baseball opening day. The rule changes in Major League Baseball is not for myself. It's not for you out there, the hardened baseball fan, whether you're a fan 5, 10, 15, 30, or even 50 years from all around this great country. It's not for those that are going to be locked in. It's for trying to generate more fans. So if they want the pitcher to go out there and work in rhythm with a guy on base, begin the windup within 20 seconds, nobody on base, begin the windup within 15 seconds, or have the batter make sure that he's back in the batter's box within 8 seconds, then making the base pass first, second, and third bigger, eliminating the shift. All of this is to make the game better. We've seen leagues, whether it be the National Football League, do they get to the same league as it is today in 2023, or what we saw in 2022 as it was 30 years ago? No, it's not. Is NBA basketball the same? No. How many games do you see being played? 83-79 finals. You don't see that at all. So every league adjusts to try and bring what? more fans into the sport. And that is something that Major League Baseball is going out there and trying to do. I've been critical at times of Rob Manfred, whether or not as a MLB commissioner, whether he likes the sport based on some of the rhetoric that he has spewed in years gone by. But I got to be honest with you, as a longtime baseball fan, I've been a Yankee fan my entire life. Watched a ton of Met games here in the tri-state area. Watched baseball all around. Can't wait for October baseball. Think it's absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring now and what's happening now and the rule changes being brought about baseball. It's going to bring back to the game to when I became a fan, where the stolen base was something, moving guys over was something, having men on base, batting averages ascending, not being an all or nothing league where either you're striking out or hitting the ball over the fence. And that is what baseball is trying to do. So as everybody tries to adjust, and change is difficult, whether you're changing your diet, exercise routine, changing your relationships, changing a job, change is different. I get that. And it's hard. But let's take a step back. Let's understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do here. And they're trying to repopulate or repopularize the sport. That's what they're trying to do. They're clearly the third most popular sport in the United States. They want to make it less regionalized. This is the way they need to go about doing it. I'm all for it. For more content like this, download the Bettor Sports Network app or go to bettorsports.com.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. It's in the freaking game. We're saying it once, we're saying it twice, we're saying it every time today. Guys, we are about to get into a segment we call the Moreau You Know, where we are going to impart some knowledge onto you guys that we've learned over the past week and hopefully teach you guys a little something. And I wanted to go first today, if you guys do not mind. Is that all right if I jump in and take this one? Because it's really related to what's going on right now and what we've been talking about with a lot of the free agency. We keep talking about the salary cap and dead cap, and they cleared up space, and they're going to take this hit. This is dead money. But all of that can be a bit confusing. But I found a guide yesterday that kind of broke down what it means. So Deshaun Watson, we know yesterday the Browns restructured his contract to clear up over $30 million in cap space. How is that possible, right? The salary cap is fake is what everybody says, but here's how it works. So salary is what counts against the salary cap the year it's paid. Your signing bonus is then going to be paid as a lump sum, but the cap hit is divided evenly across the length of the deal with a maximum of 5 years. So if you have a signing bonus, they're going to split that up evenly across the 5 years instead of just putting it on your salary. If a player leaves the team for pretty much any reason, all of the signing bonus that hadn't counted against the cap is going to count against the cap for that next season. So that's what they say whenever they're talking about that hit, right? So if you had a signing bonus and it was spread across 5 years, you leave after 2, the 3 years that hadn't been paid out yet or against the cap are now going to count against the cap. So it accelerates to the team's cap that year. If they have any guaranteed salary in future years, it accelerates if he's cut. But it does travel to a new team if he's traded. So that's whenever we talk about if you cut a player, it's got a $20 million dead cap hit. If they had guaranteed money and they're cut, that money is going to count against the cap that year. It's going to count. So what you're left with is dead cap is basically leftover signing bonus that hasn't been paid out yet because the player already got it, but hasn't been counted against the cap yet, and guaranteed money that hasn't been paid out yet. And so that's how these teams have dead cap hits whenever they cut a player, and how they can clear up cap space by converting things to a signing bonus, then only having to pay, let's say, a fifth of that year one, and the rest of it is spread out across the other years. So eventually you got to pay the piper, but that's how teams are doing it. It's that signing bonus rule where it's split across 5 years or up to a max of 5 years.
There's little tricks you can do. So anytime you hear the void year, what they're doing is they're adding an extra year, technical year onto the contract.
Yeah.
And then you can spread the cap hit over those years, but written into the deal is that the moment the league year starts, that becomes void and the player becomes a free agent. So it's kind of like a little trick you can use to spread cap into the future, right? And a lot of these things are the reasons that we're able to, the more you learn about stuff like this, the easier it'll be for you to play fantasy football, especially dynasty, because it's easier to predict what could happen with guys. Like we knew, that's how I was able to predict that Tyreek Hill would be traded because he wouldn't restructure his contract and he set himself up to not have any cap and could be traded. Now, on the flip side, a reason that I think that the Cardinals are definitely tanking this year is that when they trade DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to have to eat $20 million in cap, and they're only getting savings of like $8 million, right? 22 million is what they're going to eat, 8 million savings, right? And you ask yourself, why would we do that? Why would the Cardinals do that? Well, it's kind of genius on their part to have that set up in a year that they're not going to win anything, because they eat all that money. Whatever team gets Hopkins is going to get him for a super cheap deal for how good he is. That means the pick they're going to get back is going to be a really good pick because he's much more valuable. If you're trading a guy that has a huge contract, that's why you see Jonnu Smith go for a 7th round pick. You're just literally trying to get out from the deal. This is the other way around, where the Cardinals are like, hey, we'll eat this guy's contract. You get a star player for cheap, but you're going to have to pay us a big pick, helps them rebuild. So kind of a tricky maneuvering going on there. And I love that you took the time to explain that, because it is complicated. And, we like to assume that people know these things. Now they do, right? Now that
this was something I didn't quite fully like. I knew dead cap. I understood you got to pay the guy something left over, but you start understanding how they can maneuver it. Now, what I thought was really interesting, maybe less useful for us, was the incentives aspect of the cap hit. So incentives are categorized in one of two ways when it comes to cap: likely to be earned and not likely to be earned. And it's based on the previous year's performance, if I'm not mistaken. So if they accomplished what that incentive would be the previous season, it counts as likely to be earned and will count against the cap. But if they did not reach that milestone the previous year, whatever it is, 10 receiving touchdowns, 1,000 yards, whatever the incentive is tied to, then it's considered not likely to be earned and it will not count against the cap.
The Patriots abused that so hard with Tom Brady. If Tom Brady ever had a down year, they would go in and just, because it's a percentage above whatever they did, right? So it's like you sit there and say, you calculate them all and say, okay, if we set these incentives for these guys, then the next year they surpass them, then it's an easy way to give our guys money without it counting against the cap, which is always a great thing, right? Like if you're a Bob Kraft, you have all the money in the world. You want to give these guys the money, especially when it doesn't count against the cap, right? So you go in, and if anybody has a down year and you say, hey, we know you're better than this, sign this deal and we'll just give you money. It'll help the team and it'll help you. Everybody loves that, dude. So the incentives unlikely to be earned is a really good, tricky way to pay your guys without hurting the team. I love
it. It is fun. Yeah. That was my immediate thought, Coop, was I'm sure people are like not abusing this, but using it to its full extent, where you can take a player off a bad year and just load them up with incentives to avoid it counting against the cap that year.
Fire them up, dude. Especially if you take guys from different systems, like if you take a guy that's played 3-4 defensive end, and you're going to move him into 4-3 defensive end on your team, and now he's going to be in a position to rush the passer a lot more, have a lot more sacks. Throw a little sack incentive in there, right? Why not? Like he's going from one role to the other. It's same thing with Tony Pollard. Throw some more incentives on there that, he's going to have more yards. I know he did have a good year this year, but if you have a guy that was a running back and was a backup running back, throwing slap some incentives on there. Now he's going to be the starter. He should be able to hit those. Money for him, and doesn't hurt your cap space.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I've got a football, Murrow, if you guys want me to do one of those today. Or, JL, did you want to go next?
Go for it.
So I'm going to talk to you guys about a player named Dave Hampton. Are you familiar with this guy?
I am not.
So a little background on Dave Hampton. He was born in 1947. So this guy played a long time ago. He was drafted in 1969. And you know that this was a old draft because he was picked in round 9. Right. But he was only picked 220, which in the current draft would be somewhere in the 5th or 6th round. So not that crazy, right? He got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He was actually one of the last players that was drafted by Vince Lombardi before he left to coach in Washington. So there's a little something for him right there, right? But he didn't really hang around with the Packers. He ended up going to the Falcons, where he had his best success. But the most interesting thing that happened with this guy was that at one point, in the last game of the year, he came out and he surpassed 1,000 yards, which at the time was a big milestone, 1,000 yards rushing. I think this was back when there was only 14 games. They stopped the game and they actually brought out a trophy that they had made for him. They were like, we know he's going to crack 1,000 yards. Let's bring out this trophy. We'll stop the entire game. They bring it out. Keith, were you able to get the clip or at least a picture of that trophy to potentially pull up? Because it is kind of funny to see. Like we saw it with LeBron James when he surpassed the scoring title. They stopped the game, brought out he shook hands with Kareem. Yeah, here he is. There he is right there. Like during the game, they stopped the game, brought this trophy out, said congratulations, 1,000 yards rushing. So then they started the game again, and guess what happens? They hand him the ball, and the blocking completely blows up, and he gets crushed for a 6-yard loss. So he had 1,001 yards, finishes the game with 995 yards. Game over, season ends. So he stopped the whole game to bring out this big 1,000-yard rushing trophy, and he doesn't
Would
finish.
they not wait till the end of the game?
I have no idea.
It's so dumb.
Dude, how bad of a play is it got to be a 6-yard loss, dude? He must have got smoked on that play.
He was so mad. Like, no!
If you're him, you just chuck the ball. Right?
Chuck the
penalty.
ball, bro. Smash
Take
that
the
trophy over
penalty.
your knee. Like, would he give the trophy back? Right?
They just crossed out 1,000 and etched in 995.
995, dude.
Almost achievement.
I like that one better. Almost 1,000 rushing.
Almost
yards.
on the
Yeah.
So
Nearly over 1,000 rushing yards.
So it gets worse. Next year he comes back, 1993, finishes the season with 997 yards.
Screw. God, screw that, dude. I'm out.
So okay.
I'm done playing football at that point.
But I'll tell you guys, has a happy ending. 1974, he comes out, gets injured, misses the whole year. 1975.
He's sweating. He's like, I'm not going to do it.
He's like, oh, man, I was so close. 1975, comes out, runs for 1,002 yards to finish the season.
Dude, just couldn't get above that. This is barely above that 1,000.
Official. Just barely above it. And for his troubles, he received the award that Geno Smith received this year, the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. So that's the story of Dave Hampton. A triumphant one at the end of the day that he got that 1,000-yard rushing season, was the Comeback Player of the Year. But, I mean, my God, dude, what a absolute, what a bumbling of bringing a trophy on the field.
Come on, man. Somebody was just scratching their head like, huh.
Dave Hampton, bro. Yeah.
I was not expecting that story to end on the positive note. And I think maybe it's just because most of the stories I find end with and then they were hospitalized, and then they got crushed by a garbage truck, and then their pet bird murdered them. It's just most of our Moreau, I feel end poorly. And yours was, and then he had 1,000 yards rushing.
Oh, yeah. Well, he actually did get crushed by a garbage truck in '96.
Shoot. Right after.
I'm kidding. Dave Hampton's alive and well.
Hal said, may all our stories end as well as Dave Hampton.
Yes.
I just love that
Dave Hampton be with you.
I mean, if you really think about it, though, if they didn't give him that stupid trophy, very consistent guy. 995 yards, 997 yards, 1,002, highly consistent. It was that stupid trophy that really messed things up for him,
Absolutely absurd.
Good for him, though. Getting that 1,000 yards. Yeah.
Dave Hampton.
Father
of Brock Hampton.
Remember the name. Yeah.
Brockhampton. Yeah, I forgot about Brockhampton.
Yeah, good old Brockhampton.
That's a band. Isn't that the rap group?
Yes. Yes, Scoop. That is the rap group.
I was like, who the hell is Brockhampton? I was trying to think. Is he a baseball player? Yeah.
Well, my Mario, is in a similar vein. It's football related. And it's about the story of Norm Michael. You guys ever heard of Norm Michael?
No.
Sounds
Young
like a
man.
familiar name.
Pretty boring name.
He does sound familiar, doesn't?
Like, I don't
Norm
think I've ever heard of him,
Michael.
but like the name sounds like I've met him. Like I know Norm Michael.
You probably haven't met him. He was born in 1921, and he was a football player for Syracuse. Around 1944, I believe, was the time that he was drafted. He was drafted in 1944 NFL draft by the Philadelphia Eagles. But there was only one problem. They couldn't locate him because he was stationed, because it was the middle of World War II. And so he was in Alabama. He was stationed in Alabama. They could not find him. The tricky part about his story was he did not learn of his selection until 55 years after he was drafted. He was reading a local newspaper in 1999 of Syracuse draftees, and he saw his own name. And he said, quote, "That was the first I heard of it. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I guess I may have missed my window of opportunity. My son sent them a letter after we found out. I think he wanted to see if Eagles owed me a signing bonus. Think of the interest I could have had. 57 years worth."
Jeez, that's wild, dude. He just didn't know at all. Nobody ever.
He had
They
no
just gave
idea.
up.
They just gave up. He just had no idea he was drafted into the NFL by an NFL team.
This was World War II related. Why they couldn't find him is what you were saying, Joe.
He was serving in World War II.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he was serving in World War II, and that's why they couldn't find him.
I think he was in Alabama though. He wasn't in Europe. He was in Alabama.
Like he was
So it
enlisted,
wasn't
but maybe wasn't.
Yeah, it feels like they should have been able to find him a little easier, but who knows? I wasn't alive then.
What did they just I guess. See, I think
He was a fullback.
Why didn't they just text him? But it was the 40s, so that makes sense. Why didn't they just email him? It was the 40s, so that makes sense.
And also, we're not talking. It's not like this was their second round pick. It was around. Would you say round 20? Fullback round 20.
Yeah, 18, I think. Around 18 or 20.
18, dude. Yeah, I mean, they were like, send him
20th
a letter.
round. Yeah.
Send him a letter. See if he shows up.
If not, 20th round. Yeah.
Imagine being 78 though, and scrolling through memory lane, looking through some old Syracuse news, Syracuse draftees, and you're like, "Oh, I remember this guy. I remember this. What the?" Just see your own name pop up on there.
That is wild. I think at that time, a lot of people did not go into the NFL. I don't think it was necessarily worth it for all people. People could make money elsewhere, more money elsewhere.
I love hearing stories of old timey football. My girlfriend's grandfather, the first time I met him, he came out and he told me all these crazy stories. He gave me a tour of his house and I was seeing all of his military stories and all that stuff. And we got to his office and he pulls out a book that he was an expert witness for, like a first person account of the story, because he was part of a group of, I believe, football players, if I'm not making this up, that got kicked out of West Point and then went to Notre Dame and played football there. There was a big controversy where they got kicked out of school and then brought to another school to play, a whole group of them. And there's a book written about it. But the way he tells the stories, it was all the old timey names. And they're just oh, so we just packed our bags and went up to Indiana to play some more football. Everything just seems so I don't know, everyone played football. If you wanted to play college football, you could just show up at Notre Dame and be like, "Hey, I'm in.
I'm here to play."
Night Train Lane was he was work at a factory and then just go and and have the most interceptions of all time. Back then it was we're playing this evening. I just pulled up a Norm Michael scouting report. I found an old scouting report. So apparently Michael suffered a torn arm muscle as a freshman, then broke his wrist, arm, nose, and ankle over the final 2 seasons. And he also broke his leg in one of the other
Is it Norm?
sophomore year. Norm, yeah. So he had a broken arm, wrist, nose, ankle, and leg.
He kept the doctors busy.
Kept the doctors busy. But the scouting report said, he's a first-class fullback so long as his bones maintain the particular spirit of unity.
Say that again?
Particular spirit of unity.
Something about his bones?
A first-class fullback so long as his bones maintain the particular spirit of unity. Basically saying that this guy's pretty good as long as his bones can stay together. which
That
Which
is
they
not how they actually wrote scouting reports in the 40s. I refuse to believe they said if his bones maintain a particular case of unity. Is that what you said?
It's in quotes with a source.
Jeez Louise. That sounds like a made-up SNL quote from the 40s about a football player.
That's such a
100%.
good segment idea.
How come we don't have
100%.
any? How come no one tells us about the prospects' bones anymore?
And their unity.
I don't know anything about how unified Bryce Young's bones are.
No.
I know it about Norman Michaels.
Norman Michaels do not seem particularly
he's-
unified.
And he's passed, so
That's their biggest concern.
definitely not playing anytime soon.
Rest in peace.
And Craig in the chat said, "What is Zoo Camp, Joey?" It's a good question.
Good question. I missed Joey's comment before that, so
I don't think there was one. I think that was just a question out of the blue. And Tim in here says, "Damn, was I signed and they couldn't find me either?"
probably.
Most
Dude.
likely.
How unified are your bones, Tim?
Yeah, we need a report.
Need a report on that. On the unity of them.
Unify your bones, unify your bones. That's what they sing to everyone at the combine before they
There you
go.
go.
Unify
Unify
your
your bones.
Adam,
Idaho, Braxton Berrios.
Adam wants to know the odds Chicago makes the playoffs this season. So the Chicago Bears making some good moves.
43%.
That seems all right. I'm curious if there's if we got odds up on the FanDuel Sportsbook for making the play. Yeah, make playoffs. Let's see. Oh, they only have the Saints up there. So
I'm guessing it's too early
Never
for
mind.
538 too. And yeah, with all these moves.
yeah. So
Makes
they are
sense.
third in their division to win the NFC North. The Lions are at plus 145, the Vikings at plus 280, the Bears at plus 300, and the Packers at plus 410. So all four of those teams are relatively close. I think it is the smallest gap between first and last, and a pretty small gap between first, second, and third there as well. So they're in a winnable division with the Lions. The Vikings are probably a hard test for them. Packers, we don't know what they're going to look like. You get surprised to see the Lions as the betting odds favorite to win that division over the Vikings. Lions at plus 145, Vikings at plus 280.
No, because the Packers are going to be dismantled with this Aaron Rodgers trade, most likely. Like they're probably not going to be at the top of that division. I think Vikings are the only other really main competition to the Lions. I would put the Bears in there with the Lions. I think the Bears Bears are in a very similar position to the Lions, where they're trending up. They have a lot of leverage and a lot of stuff that's working for them in the immediate future and long-term future, but not quite there yet.
I think I would have ordered it like if I had to make predictions: Vikings, Lions, Bears, Packers. But the Vikings are closer in
Defense is
odds
so
to the
bad.
Bears than they are to the Lions. The Lions are plus 145, Vikings plus 280, Bears plus 300, like right in line with
Interesting.
each other. I would have really thought it would be maybe the gap would be between the Vikings and the Bears, not between the Lions and the Vikings.
I wonder what is going into that, because that makes me wonder what does Vegas know?
Al down here
What are we
saying
missing?
Vikings are in flux. Adam Thielen gone. I guess they got some moving pieces. Kirk Cousins aging.
Still got the core. I mean, Dalvin Cook maybe gone, Adam Thielen, but those guys don't really feel like the only thing the Vikings have.
Cooper, are you surprised that the Vikings are maybe closer to the Bears than they are to the Lions when it comes to winning the NFC North odds-wise? Or would you put the Lions confidently first?
No, I wouldn't say confidently. I mean, the Vikings can keep it together. Like they had to make cuts for cap space. They lost guys. Like they had to cut Eric Kendricks and they had to cut Adam Thielen, and they lost Alvin Tomlinson. Those are the big ways that they're getting under. But I mean, if they draft a guy, if they sign a guy like a DJ Chark or draft a guy like Quentin Johnston, now they're not far off from where they were. I think the guys like that can step in and give you what Adam Thielen did. And then on defense, you just got to figure it out. I mean, they lost Patrick Peterson who signed with the Steelers for a 2-year deal, but I don't know. I think they can glue it together, and they have Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook and TJ Hawkinson. Like they have mega stars, right? So I think they could be all right. But the Lions are the team that's on this trajectory, and they're on this one. So this could be the year that the Lions leapfrog them, and I don't think it's ever. And I don't think it's going back. You know what I mean? Like it's once the Lions leapfrog the Vikings and the Bears, you got to do a rebuild. You know what I mean? The Patriots are doing theirs right now. Sometimes it's cyclical in this league. It's built, it's designed that way, right?
Yeah. Hal down here asking, who's the defensive coordinator in Minnesota? I believe they hired Brian Flores earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, the guy they had was one and done.
Yeah.
Well,
and
no,
they brought in. Didn't they bring in Flores a little bit earlier this offseason, if I'm not mistaken?
But yeah, I thought he signed somewhere. I just don't remember where.
Yeah.
I think
They,
it was
on February 6th, 2023, they announced the hiring of defensive coordinator Brian Flores, which it's a great hire for them. That's a great defensive hire. We've seen him as a head coach in the league, and we've seen him have successful defenses. So maybe they don't take a huge step back, but the more I think about it, Coop, you laid that out. Joe, you laid it out. I think it makes sense having the Lions up there at 1. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm about it. And
I think it's worth betting on. It's worth betting on.
It confirms what we have been saying this entire past season, which is that the Lions are making the right moves. They're progressing and growing in the right direction. So everything they're doing, I'm confident. I would be very excited if I was a Lions fan.
Lions are fun, man. Lions are fun.
We got some people in the chat. Craig over here said the Vikings need to change their name to the Tigers. We need the Lions, Tigers, and Bears in the Dame division. Wait, the same division, but you have called Dame into the chat. What's up, Dame? Welcome.
Dame division.
You say her name and she shows up. Also, Dustin saying, why do they keep putting Schefter on TV? He keeps having to run to the corner of the set to talk on the phone. If it does seem like maybe they should just have someone else. And Schefter says, hey, now say this.
I'm so one day whenever we meet Schefter, you know what? We should have asked. I should have asked Mike Garofalo, but I'm just so curious how that whole insider thing works a lot of the time. Like, I love whenever they release news, like as a joint, like as a team. They're like, per me and Rappaport. Yeah. It's like, what do you guys do? You guys are like, hey, you got this? Yeah, you got this? You want to do it together? Yeah.
Do you think sometimes they throw each other a bone? Like, do you think sometimes Rappaport texts Schefter and he's like, hey, I got this 6 story. You want to break it together? Get me next time?
I bet. I bet there's a lot of exchanging of info.
I'm starting to think it works like this. I'm starting to think that the way that they get this information is money. And I'm starting to think that Schefter has this umbrella of people that work with him and under him. And a lot of the ways that they're getting these things is that, like, even if somebody goes to somebody that works with Schefter or under Schefter, even if they go directly to that person, it's partially because of Schefter. That's why Schefter deserves credit, me and this person. Like, this is part of my thing. They got this info was told to them, but you know, there's a reason I'm involved. You know, otherwise, why would they be able to take any of that credit? You know,
I don't know. That's why I'm fascinated by it. So I want to know. I want to know the inner workings.
Yeah, I like to think of it like these guys. I mean, we have seen Schefter do some crazy things that are borderline unethical. Like the time that he posted JPP's X-rays after the firework thing. How did he get those? Right? How did he get a picture? That's like illegal, right? So like, I'm like, how is he doing this? He is a master at like weaseling in and getting the information. There's really nobody better.
It's like an information MLM, like a multi-level marketing scheme. But Schefter's like the top of the pyramid. He tells people like, you just get some people under you that are going to find information. They'll feed it to you. But you can build your whole network of informants underneath you. And then slowly Schefter's built up this pyramid. They all dream of being Schefter one day, but there's only one Schefter.
But there's only one Schefter.
They're not going to make it.
You get people under you. Yeah, a couple years from now, Simon, the tweets will be like, Adam Schefter will be like, per me and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. It's like 10 people deep per all of us. Per the 6 of us. Alan Lazard is signing with the Jets.
It has to be the second tweet, the news every single time. The first one's just the per.
But that and thing is new, right? Like I didn't until this last like year or two, I never saw people being like per us, right?
I
always think that's funny.
What's the worst name you could say? Percy Jackson. Percer.
That's kind of funny. EJ and Gator. That's a good morning, fellas. Have a great Tuesday. What up, Gator?
Morning, Gator J.
Greg said, I think Joe would do great as an NFL insider.
Yeah.
I think I would do great too.
Do it right now, Joe. Get some information from me that no one knows.
Inside. Alan Lazard's middle name is Paul.
Ooh. Fact check.
Beautiful.
can't fact check it. It's not information that you can find easily.
Gonna be
Alan
an
Paul
came
is
up-
hard.
Came
I
out
would be-
immediately.
If
His
I had
middle
rolled
name
the
is
NFL,
Jamel,
that's
like I
close.
said.
Close to Paul.
but his friends
Paul.
call him Paul.
But everybody knows him on an intimate level. Knows him as Paul.
Everyone calls him Alan, but they call him by a nickname middle name of Paul. That's like his nickname middle name.
If I had
Jamel.
any level of information NFL related, I would be Schefter's best friend because I'm gonna be honest, I'm so bad at like not sharing that. And it's not a thing where like I just decide to share it. I lose focus for a second and they trick me. It happened this weekend. I had a surprise like day planned for me and my girlfriend. We're sitting in the car and the whole day I'm not telling her the activity. I'm not telling her the activity. I'm not telling her the activity. But she asked me things like, what should I wear? And she had a dress on. We were going rollerblading. So I was like, wear shorts under the dress. We're sitting in the parking lot at Goodwill and we're going to like go into Goodwill. And she's like, oh, did I need to wear the shorts in case I need to change? And I was like, no, you need to wear the shorts because we're going rollerblading. And then I immediately just threw my head in my hands. Like it was supposed to
You
be
dingle.
a surprise activity. And I
Oh,
just,
the surprise.
Schefter would call me and be like, so are you excited to play with the Packers next year? And I'd be like, no, I'm playing with the Jets, you idiot. And then would hang up the phone.
I wouldn't be able to do it either because they're so objective with their tweets, and I would just be like, the Vikings paid Josh Oliver $21 million, and that's dumb.
He would be on the other side. He'd get the information fine, and then he can't tweet it out.
And then I'd tweet it and just ruin it.
Also, Hal in here saying they all get fed false info, so they got to work together to filter it. This is a rosy perspective, I know. Teams just know that
Rosy
they can send them anything, and they will say it, decimate false info or narrative, and throw them bones so they can maintain credibility. It's a whole ecosystem. I'm with you, JL. It would be fun to just like get someone who's in that ecosystem and just ask them questions. I just want to know everything.
I just want to know. I don't want to use it against anyone. I just want to know.
Is your phone always on loud? Always? 24/7?
What happens if you miss the call? Do they call the next guy in line?
Do they text?
Is it stressful?
Do you have more than one phone?
Is it easy?
Do you have like a Cardinals phone? Do you have like different ringtones so you prioritize who to answer the calls from?
How do you start getting secrets?
How do you stop getting secrets? Oh man, someone
you
just send
medium?
that to Schefter and he's gonna be like, these boys, I got to answer their questions.
It's a good question. How do you stop getting secrets? He's like, I've been trying to figure that out. I don't know.
Are we just going to gloss over the fact that you said a rosy outlook and throw him a bone in the same sentence, but we're not going to talk about JL's dog and how that's
I
also...
mentioned it.
Oh, you did?
I
missed
just
that.
said Rosie.
Yeah. Right after you said Rosie, he goes and throw him a bone. I was like, Rosie again.
Rosie.
You little
She's just
angel.
like clearly she's sleeping, but hearing her name, me say her name twice, she was just like, "What?
Rosie bone?
What do you want?" I'm sleeping.
Tim in the chat said, I will be an NFL Tim Sider one day.
Tim Sider.
Oh.
NFL
That
to
sounds
Tim
like a
Sider.
new commercial idea.
Well, guys, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more NFL free agency. If you've got free agency questions, throw them in the chat. Unfortunately, our friend Coop has to leave to go purchase a tomato farm. But Coop will be back bright and early tomorrow morning with us. Coop, thanks for joining us and hanging out. You know,
Thanks
like
for having me,
every
guys.
single day.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to send some tomatoes your way once I get that farm locked up. So I'll let you boys know tomorrow.
Can you settle the debate for us before you leave? Is it tomato or tomato?
Tomato?
Yes.
I think I've settled it. It's
Tomato.
Tomato.
It's
Tomato.
it's tomato.
Tomato.
Tomato?
Tomato.
Like a tomisto. It's where the misto from Rita's Italian Ice comes from.
Yeah. Tomisto.
What about tomato?
No. Don't be
What are you,
ridiculous.
British?
Get out of here. Go on. Get.
You think?
Well, guys, we'll be right back with some more free agency talk. Coop's going to head on out, but Dale and I are going to hold the fort down. You're watching the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Better Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
Well, LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he
never
not?
on the cover.
I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete. 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
No way you know.
and Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14,
No way you know it.
14, also a trick question.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my
Okay.
life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, okay, hold
Oh.
on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. But yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. We are Dave and whoever the hell the other name we said the other day is.
Dave and Dave.
Dave and Dave. Just the Daves hanging out on a Friday
Dave
morning.
Morning Show.
It is not Friday. It is Tuesday.
You're so wrong.
Damn it. We got Jay in the chat. What's up, Jay? Good morning, my friend. He said, I believe it's Tamako. I believe you're wrong. But
Tamako.
to each their own. Tomato, Tamako.
Tomato, Tamako.
Dave and Dingus is what Tommy said. Who's Dave and who's Dingus?
We're both
Probably
Dave and we're
sports
both Dingus.
on this blessed day. Welcome in, everyone.
This blessed Friday morning. Happy Friday morning to you.
It really
We hope
does.
you have a fun weekend planned.
Dude, yesterday, daylight savings time or ending or starting. I never know which one's which. Did it end or did it start?
I don't know. It went forward.
Okay, so it went forward. Last night, it was like 7:30 and the sun was still like brighten up. And I was like, what the hell is going on? It threw off everything. Like it didn't feel like bedtime. And then suddenly it was bedtime. And I'm not used to that. I get so thrown off by the sun, man.
Sun is brutal. The sun, I was so happy though that it was light out yesterday evening. Immediately brightened my mood.
I like it when it reaches nighttime. I like it whenever it gets dark at night. I get the sun all day. And then at nighttime, it's nice to like relax.
So you prefer the winter one?
Yeah, I prefer the winter one.
The winter version of Daylight Savings? Oh, see, now we're going to fight, Simon, because that's the worst one.
See,
that's the one that has all the problems that nobody likes.
My preference is not immediately after either. It's the middle of both. Know what I mean? Like whenever it's a little bit more normal, but my biggest preference is just the same always. Just don't change it on me because it's going to mess up my sleep for 2 weeks every single time.
Yeah, I got duped this weekend by the clocks in the house that don't auto adjust. I was like, oh, it's only 9:30. And then I was like, shoot.
We were mad at ourselves on Sunday morning because we meant to like wake up and get going. We didn't set an alarm. And all of a sudden we woke up at like 10 and we we're like, what the hell? How did we sleep until 10? And then we're driving around and we get in the car and I see that the car clock is an hour ahead of our phone clocks. And I was like, we've been duped. We had a question in here from Adam John Luke saying, excluding Bijan, which running back do y'all think has the best potential based on size and skill set in the draft? Do you have another running back that stands out to you, JL, as one of your preferred targets?
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is probably the next up. right?
Yeah.
Alabama running back. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's probably going to be the consensus number 2. Like, there's certainly a big drop off from Bijan to Jahmyr Gibbs. How big is that drop off for you?
It's pretty big. It is Gibbs' ceiling. We talk about the comparison is Alvin Kamara, but I don't think he ever reached it. That's a dream ceiling, right? That you're hoping for. Bijan Robinson, we're expecting a Saquon Barkley type player. You know what I mean? Just looking at expectations, even taking what I feel about it. Like the expectations of these two players are running back that will be taken over 2 quarterbacks in a super flex rookie draft, or a receiving back with upside. Like I like Jahmyr Gibbs. He's near the top with like the top wide receiver. Like there's probably only 1 or 2 wide receivers that I'm taking ahead of him in rookie drafts, but he's number 2, but there's a big gap. And I think that says more about Bijan than it does about Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think this feels like, is it Saquon's year that there was really, or maybe Zeke's year, where it was just a massive gap. Like it was just so from the 1 to 2 was huge step. Do you remember?
I can't remember who the next man was, but you're 100% right. Where sometimes it's a massive step down. This doesn't feel quite as massive. I am curious. I want to pull up that Saquon draft and see who the next running back was taken. So he was taken number 2 overall. What year was that? 2018? 17?
18?
I remember where I was
right.
when Baker got drafted.
Well, we can reverse engineer 17 because this is his 6th year.
100%. Oh, my computer knows me. I start typing in 2017 and it autofills NFL draft.
Saquon? NFL draft. Nice.
2017 NFL draft. I don't think this was the year Saquon was drafted because this was the Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey year. Man, Jay, I really
2018.
It is 2018. Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley. Let's see. Who was the next running back?
Yeah,
Man,
that's 5 years.
Rashad Penny was the next running back taken, and then Sony Michel. All in the first round. So 2 more first-round running backs, but that's about how it feels, right?
But there was a big drop-off in talent, for sure.
Yeah. And then Jay coming in and reminding us Nick Chubb was also that draft. There were 2 more running backs selected in between Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb. He was a 2nd-round pick to the Browns.
Yeah.
Top of that 2nd round. I see Dustin here saying Zach Evans and Roschon Johnson are my 2 picks after Bijan and Gibbs.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Roschon Johnson. I don't know that many people are going to have him up in the top 5.
I do feel like Zach Evans is a name that's been sitting up there. Zach Charbonnet is another one that's been rising to the top. But for me, there is a tier break after Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not just, and then this guy's 3rd, this guy's 4th. It goes Bijan, gap, Jahmyr Gibbs, gap, and then the next squad for me.
And then the next crew, yeah. I think Charbonnet is probably the next one for me. You're right. There is a giant gap. You probably throw Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, I don't know, Devin A. Chain, all into a tier.
Yeah. The one thing
I
that
go
is
through and do all my rookie rankings, but I'll do that after the draft.
Yeah. The Zach Evans, what we like about Zach Evans is that he does kind of look like a prototypical NFL running back. Right, he is built like when he's 5'11", 200 plus pounds. Like he's not this huge guy like Derrick Henry, but that's about the size that you look for in a running back. And he's got that crazy burst, so he's fun to watch play. But I don't think he has that. It'll be interesting to see if he can adjust to the speed in the NFL because there was a lot of running into the defenders during his time in college.
And Dustin
said we need to see Evans and Miller work out. They didn't at the combine.
Yeah. He also said Texans get Shaq Mason from the Bucks in a trade, and I have confirmed this. Tom Pelissero, Bucks are trading Shaq Mason to Texans. Interesting. How do you feel about that, Simon?
I don't know. I don't really good for the Texans, but it doesn't really affect their NFL outcome, right? Money they're spending is just filling out their roster. They're not competing.
Yeah.
Right? They shouldn't make anything too splashy of a move. They want to get this young quarterback, have a high draft pick again next year to further shore up that offensive line, grab another weapon at receiver. This signing is clearly a plus for the Texans defense, but it doesn't really move the needle for me anywhere.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would be interested to see how the Texans navigate this rebuild. We see teams that have really executed well on a rebuild.
What would you use as an example? Like, what's
The
your
Jets
favorite
is-
rebuild? The Jets?
The Jets is probably one of the top rebuilds. Eagles, I don't think is full rebuild because they weren't bad. They just won a Super Bowl not that long, 2017. But the Jets were one of the worst teams too. I think they'll be one of the best, and I think the Lions also are in that conversation.
The Dolphins?
Yeah. Is that a full?
I feel like that was
yeah. Have they been
Tank for
like
Tua.
bottom 5 in the
They
last?
went full tank for Tua. They had an early draft pick to grab the dude.
Remember tank for Tua, yeah.
So
You're right, yeah. And I would say Dolphins too. Dolphins are definitely in that combo.
And then it makes sense. Like the next step is then Coop always talks about the hired guns, right? You go out and you just you build through the draft, you build these positions, and then you just go trade or sign these big name defensive players to come in and finish your team. And they went out, traded for Bradley Chubb. They don't have any draft picks left this year. I think I saw they had a league low, like 4 draft picks.
They also forfeited one.
Draft. They also forfeited their first round pick for something.
That's gotta hurt so bad. Like just to know that you could have been picking somebody in the first round and you're not, that is painful.
Yeah.
Hopefully it teaches them a lesson. Don't be a bad guy.
Also, Justin in here saying great protection for Pierce in whichever QB they get. I am realizing I thought you said Shaq Lawson, not Shaq Mason.
Clemson
and
guy.
I was like, that is such a weird signing for the Texans right now. Like, why would they do that? And as soon as he said great protection, I was Shaq Mason. That makes way more sense, and now I'm much more excited about it. They get
You
the
did say
protection for their young
defense,
quarterback.
didn't you? Like
I did.
Well, like not that long. Yeah. Whenever you said that, I was like, why did he say defense? But I thought you just said it wrong.
No, I heard the name wrong. I thought we were talking
got you.
Shaq Lawson, not
Ooh,
Shaq
that
Mason.
would be interesting.
Right? That made
Shaq
no sense to me.
Lawson.
That's exactly the type of player that the Texans don't need to sign right now when they're going through a full rebuild. But
Yeah.
Shaq Mason, that's a great signing for the rookie quarterback that they're going to come in and shove into a starting role on a terrible team. Get some freaking protection for him, for Bryce Young, who it's looking like it's going to be.
The other guard from the guard from the other ACC team, Shaq Mason,
Where did he go?
Georgia Tech, I believe.
Georgia Tech.
I believe I just saw him.
Talking lots of Georgia Tech today. Jameer Gibbs was a Georgia Tech guy before Alabama.
Nice.
Transferred over there. Freaking Yellow Jackets. You
Yeah,
feeling some
go
Yellow
Yellow-
Jacket pride, Jam?
Go Yellow Jackets. Not for football, no.
Just for nerd
No.
stuff?
God, no. Yeah. Just nerd stuff.
She's like,
Just
I'm
grad-
only happy about the nerd stuff at Georgia
Yeah.
Tech. Nothing else matters.
There were some other free agent signings that we didn't hit on earlier, Simon. The Daron Payne one we briefly went over. It's good for Washington. Speaking of the Jets, they got Quincy Williams, linebacker. They also got Chuck Clark in a trade and Greg Zerloin. I don't know. That's super noteworthy.
Well, he's coming back. $3.5 million. I would take $3.5 million to kick some field goals. I say that. You have to put in a lifelong worth of training. I don't mean to diminish your work, Greg Zerline. Just jealous of your job.
But it's nice that you only have to work a little.
Do you think kickers, like at practice,
Yeah.
like they got to show up to practice? What are they doing at practice? Are the kickers just hanging out over there, coming out, kicking a couple balls and drinking some water, telling
Goofing.
stories? Or do you think they're hardcore at every practice, like the linebackers are, like the running, like the guys that really have to get in the play?
I think they're chilling. I think they're over on the practice field, just knocking them up, practicing. The placeholders probably practicing holding it. Kickers just kicking.
Are we saying Zerloin wrong? Because now we're getting Zerloin is worth the steak. Zerloin is my favorite cut of steak.
Zerloin. I think it's Zerline, if I'm not mistaken.
A nice fresh Zerloin.
Nice fresh Zerloin.
Something I did want to hit on around free agency is it seems like the Browns have had a little bit of trouble signing the players that they've been targeting. We're seeing players that were rumored to the Browns not going there. They had one great signing in Obo Okoronkwo. He signed a 3-year, $19 million deal. He's a good addition to the defense. He's not the game breaker. But Jesse Bates was a target of theirs. They wanted to get him. He's not going there. And I do wonder if this Browns organization, like the dysfunction in the Browns organization, is part of the reason why free agents aren't wanting to sign there.
They also had Dalvin Tomlinson. They signed a defensive tackle to a pretty big contract, 4 years, $57 million.
Yeah.
But it's a good point, Simon. I wonder if that cap news affected it, though. I'm sorry, the Deshaun Watson cap space news that we got earlier before free agency hit. That news hit. I think it was Sunday. And so I don't know if it affected it. My guess would be no. But it might have affected who the Browns reached out to or how the Browns pursued free agency for sure.
It surely affected how they pursued it because it
Yeah.
took them from not being able to really maneuver free agency at all to having 30+ million to work with.
Right. But even that is still, they made 3 signings by the source I'm looking at right now, which is probably middling, right, across all NFL teams here.
Yeah, it is middling. And it's not that they're not signing anyone. It's that the players they were reported to be their top targets, they're missing out on. They're not getting these guys that they said they were trying to get. Craig in here saying Tomlinson was a big one, though. They were terrible against the run last year. And they weren't so great against the pass either last year. That Browns defense, which I feel like a couple years ago was supposed to be on paper one of the best defenses in the league, is falling apart.
Whenever they got signed Denzel Ward, they had Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. They look like a stupid squad. There's another who was next to Ward. Someone was in the opposite field of Ward who was really good too. I feel like
I can't remember. They've had a couple corners go in and out over there. They had
it's not important, but what were you gonna say?
Something about the Browns defense.
On now.
It's gone now. No, I was gonna say they cleared up the cap space, and I was hoping they were gonna use that to sign Juju Smith-Schuster. Which I guess maybe depending on how they structure his deal could still happen. We haven't gotten news on the Juju signing yet, right? I haven't missed that.
Nothing from Juju yet. It's not unsurprising. Top of the market wide receiver this season. So I imagine that there are multiple teams that are interested in Juju and that he is vetting his options thoroughly.
Victor coming in with Greedy Williams. Is that who you were thinking of, JL? Were you thinking of Greedy?
No, I don't think so.
Joe Hayden was pre-Denzel Ward, but he was pretty good. Now he's on the Steelers.
Yeah, it wasn't Hayden.
Maybe that's what you're thinking of. And Ward, in Ward's defense, the pass defense was bad. Ward was fantastic. Ward hasn't been bad. Just he hasn't been surrounded by other pieces. He's been an incredible player there in that Browns defense.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal. Well, guys, that is going to be it for us today on the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. I want to thank everyone who came in and hung out with us bright and early. Whether you were here from the beginning or just joined us for these last 10 minutes, we love hanging out with you. And good news, we're going to be back tomorrow for even more Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show fun. And every single day, Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Stick around here after this for some Moose and Keys. And then tonight at 6:40 p.m. during the tip-off between Southeast Missouri State and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, play on the Bettorcast and win some cash. Until tomorrow, though, we are out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.